Hey, you guys. Well, today's the day. Kind of sad about it, to be honest. The official final Hollow Knight live stream. I mean, I don't think I'll ever live stream Hollow Knight again. I suppose maybe I could, but I don't know. Yeah. I'm really excited. I'm sad. I'm sad it's over. I'm really excited for Silk Song, of course. I'm excited to see where all that goes, and yeah, it's gonna be really cool. So that being said, let's wrap this up. Let's finish it. We'll put a bow on it and finish her up. Hold on one sec. Yeah, we'll see how long I suffer. I only have 4 hours today, only. So. The end. And honestly, at 32 hours, I feel like I've done quite a bit. So. All right. Like, I'm very happy with the progress I've made. I'll try Grim another time. So, we're going down to we're going down to the abyss. No God Home content. Not my speed. Not my speed. Yep, I did the White Palace yesterday. Hey guys, how are you? So I think it's this way. I don't know that it is. I'm just gonna go with it. Did I do the chalice done? No. No, I've never. No. I did them one time and I was good. I'm assuming it's to the right. I don't actually know. Ooh. Oh, what? It's blocking my path. No, this is where I got the shade ability, so it's not here. Yeah, they instantly started backseating today. Instantly. I mean, really backseating or a spoiler isn't really allowed right now. Oh. Oh, shit. No, I've been here before. That's here. But... And then to the left is just the... Oh, what's this? Oh, more shades. What? Oh. Hey, Tom. Hope you're having a good vacation. This is like this graveyard of... Oh. Wow. No will to break. shit. The simple choir is so evocative at producing. Oh, listen to that! Wow. Such a terrific sound of isolation and of like loss, you know. No, 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 no! Oh my god. What a buzzkill. Wow. The single violin mixed with the choir is so you can't help but it's like the solo journey. Oh shit, I was about to say the solo journey. Wait, what? Oh no. Collect the void heart. Remember the past and unite the abyss. With some sort of memory. Oh, now they're not attacking me. So I wonder why we've been ordained to be the Hollow Knight, like, and who that was in that distant dream, and were these all things that could have been, all Hollow Knights that could have been but weren't, failed, because the skulls are all the same. I'm assuming, I'm assuming the black egg now. Okay. Also, I don't know who the Pale King is, so if you could not. An emptiness that was hidden within, now unconstrained, unifies the void under the bearer's will. This charm is a part of its bearer and cannot be unequipped. Huh. I didn't stop playing Wuthering Waves. I have no interest in playing 2.6. That's all. Nothing significant happened. I just didn't want to play it. I often do that though. I don't always play Wuthering Waves.
Hakana Sagamos. Hakana Sagamos.
Accept that void inside yourself. Completion percentage viewable in inventory. %91. I'll take it. I love the way the strings are. That doesn't look quite like us. It does, but it doesn't. Da da dee da. The Hollow Knight. Wait, but what? What does that mean? Why? This is sad because he's stabbing himself in the stomach. Why? Why would he do that? Outcry of pain there. Stab himself. Oh shit! Okay, so that was the ending I achieved once before. Yeah, I had to use the dream nail, obviously. Okay, so we go again. Can I just... Can I get... I don't care about this. Let me just reload. Okay. When she helped me, I had to use the spirit now. That was pretty easy, actually. I'm sure it'll be much harder after that phase. That was the original ending I got, which confused me. Oh wow, the heartbeat. That's cool. Yeah, I was too slow. Terrible. So sad. The Radiance. Oops. Certainly not a good thing, whatever it is. Oh, that's cool. Now it just comes back to me. Okay. Oh, he's trying to kill himself because of how torturous it is to be chained up in here by the Radiants, huh? Okay. Wow, nice organ. Okay. Oh, okay. I low-key hate this. Okay. And I hate it. Oh, boy. Pantheon, no. fuck? Am I supposed to just dodge those flames, by the way? You know those bolts I keep dying to? Or am I supposed to swat them? It's unclear. What fucking bitch? Excuse me. I was asking, chat. Okay. Just avoid them then. This motherfucker. Fuck! Oh, you're about to see a bad side of me. I don't know that I'm gonna like that. Luck. Pure luck there. Nice organ, though. God damn it! What the fuck is this? Oh, I hate this. Yep, I hate that. Oh, I hate that. Nope. No, I hate that. That's awful. Ooh, my tolerance for for hard stuff is really going down. No. Please, I'm not. I can't even look at chat right now, let alone I don't want your feedback. I appreciate it. Please, just no offense, just I'm barely looking at chat right now. No offense. I'm happy you're here, obviously. But it's just not meaningful advice. I can't really look at it in the time, you know. She says, "Get good." This motherfucker. Fucking shit. I don't like it. I don't like this. I think I might have anger problems. I actually don't know this about myself. I don't know if I actually have like anger problems or not. I think I might. I think I might have like some. My like threshold is very bad. My threshold is very bad. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where in my maybe my dad. My dad was like a person who would get fairly agitated fairly quickly. Like maybe it's like, you know, genetic or something. Like it's not an emotion I like to feel very often. I find anger to be very unbecoming. Especially showcasing it publicly. I think it's incredibly embarrassing. So I'm mortified right now that I'm already like tilting and slamming my desk, which is why unfortunately I think I have to stop playing fighting games, because I can't stop the tilt. Once I get there, it's not very becoming, I think. And two-phase bosses, at least they give you your health back, but two-phase bosses are my least favorite thing in the world. I like multi-phases in one. I actually like that about Hollow Knight, is that they do multi-phases in one go. So like you know that there's like a second phase, but the HP is the same. Like I like that you're progressing towards something. I absolutely hate two-phase bosses. Hate them. Which is part of the reason I've kind of stopped playing. Like that's why I kind of think Lies of P is bad for me personally, because it's all two health bar bosses. And I just think they're awful. I mean, it's a cool fight, and the music is amazing. I love how heroic it is. Don't get me wrong. So, like, you know, I just don't like. I lose a little bit of control in my anger, which I really don't like. I think it's very, very, very tacky. And frankly, I think it's really like it should be shamed, because it's very unbecoming. Like, keep your shit together, you know? I know it's like... fuck. I know it's like gamer stuff to get mad and like get good and stuff, but fucking bitch, motherfucker! If it was a little bit more predictable too, I think it'd be a little bit easier. No, you can get mad, but I think there's a balance. And also, like, there are certain emotions that I just... you know, everyone has certain things. Some people avoid feeling weakness, or well, that's not really an emotion, but you know, sadness, and so they'll bury that shit. I think that's just me with anger. I don't like feeling angry, certainly not publicly. I think every emotion is valid, of course. And the cool thing about video games is that, you know, this is a challenge worth surmounting. It's just, I think it's an interesting conversation, actually, that is not really brought up a lot in gaming subject matter. Like, the concept of, like, I mean, we talk about, like, happiness and sadness, and, you know, but what happens when you feel anger? And I wonder too, actually, like, if it isn't like some... Oops. Yeah, I don't know.
Get
I also think generally now, I'm not speaking for everybody, but like, I think there is like a degree of, you know, don't feel anger, suppress it, push it down. So I also agree with like, God, fucking bitch. I do love the horns. Cheeky little health. Nice. I fucking hate that, dude. 2 of these? Oh my god. Oh, I shouldn't. Play games when you do things that spark joy. For me, that's bashing my head against the radiance for 4 hours. No, I'm not going to play it for 4 hours. If I can't beat this in the next, like, 20 tries, I'm not going to do it. I know that may be disappointing, but, you know, I think I set the bar for that yesterday. I have to, like, respect my own mental well-being, and I know that may sound really stupid to you, but to me, it's, my palate for challenge has changed in the last, maybe I overdid it on Souls likes, but or Souls games in general, but I feel like Sekiro was like the peak for me, and I have liked this so much. I do want to finish it, but I don't know that I have it in me to do it like 4 hours straight. Not only that, but I just find that that's a colossal waste of time. I'd rather like watch someone do it and then watch like a lore video, which is way more interesting to me because the lore is nice, you know? But like with Death Stranding, like I played 30 hours, I was addicted, I was locked in, and I was like, ooh, I like this. And then one day I was like, okay, I don't like this anymore, and then I just watched the cutscenes. And frankly, a Kojima game is a better movie anyway, so that's fine, but obviously this is a little different. And also I'm streaming it, and I want to also make sure that you guys are feeling satisfied, because, you know, it's kind of a letdown, obviously. I think you understand where I'm coming from, though, so and maybe that's bad streaming protocol, but like, listen, I got it to 91%. You know that I enjoyed it. I was playing 7 hours a day some days, as opposed to like, you know, maybe other people that just play through it because it's trending right now, so that's it, you know what I mean? Like, actually, I feel like I've really given it a really good college try. I've enjoyed it immensely. I really have. I can't wait to talk about it after, actually. Whatever after means. What the fuck? Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. That's my least favorite. Oh, bitch, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm excited for a Silk Song. I'm excited to explore Silk Song. I wish I had 12,000 Geo. I'd go and buy that health charm right now. I don't feel like farming 12,000 Geo though. I guess I could do like the Coliseum 10 times. I'm really excited for the music though, regardless. Silk Song's music's gonna be great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's changed from this game. Yeah, I mean, I do have every upgrade. I could theoretically, maybe it would make my life a little bit easier for Radiance, because I don't think it's actually the attack patterns that are the problem. It's more just the double health. If it was one bar, it'd be fine. Or one mask, it'd be fine. I'm also happy with the amount of masks I have. Oh, so, okay, wait. So I need to spin into that really right as the big bar hits me. I really hate this attack with every ounce of my being. I fucking hate that attack. Look at you, you fucking bitch. Alright, I figured out that attack there. Alright, I figured that out. That's nice. Fuck! Oh! I thought I dodged. You fucking bitch! I'm so sorry. That sucks. Why are you doing the one attack I fucking hate the most? Get fucked. Alright, this sucks. Alright, this next phase is rough. I'm also not great at platforming like this, so... Alright, is it pop? Oh! Oops. No! Oh! Oh! Oh, what? Oh, what? A little motif in there. Pure vessel motif. Now it doubles on itself. And it's interesting how the second pass, Marco Bortoluzzi, there's an increase in volume, even though the emotional impetus of the way that the piece is stays the same. But we increase in the we double in the emotional intensity of this feeling of, you know, a worthwhile sacrifice. If this pursuit was worth it, if this challenge, you know, then here you get the cascading, right, with the flute and the harp. This showcases, to me, like, determination and whether or not something is really worth pursuing and worth pushing through the pain and suffering to get to that movement. And then on the other hand, you have this harp on the bottom. It's incredibly gentle and inviting, but also painful. It sounds like tears, kind of, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And even though there's this propulsion there in the oboe, notice how it fills up and it grows. And there's still the twinge of darkness that we feel and hear throughout the entire game pervades even in the silence of this. And you see how it like grows and increases. And so even though things are calm now and things the darkness has been reduced and the light shining on the lampposts, we still get that sense pervading throughout it of this pain in it, you know? Because regardless, it's a broken place, you know? And then here's the suspension. Da, da, da. And I love that because we still resolve. So we still resolve. We actually resolve. We just have a bit of a suspension where it's like, did we actually achieve the goal? Is it free now? Are we safe? Are we protected? Yes, we are. And then we resolve up into the chord, you know? And I think, too, the harp represents all the stuff you can't change, because you can't change the past. I beat the Radiance quicker than most of the player base. I bet you the player base didn't use motherfucker as well as I did. Yeah, no. Graveyard Kingdom, totally. Really beautiful. All right, let's see. Percentage 91. 33 hours, 27 minutes, and 59 seconds. I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about that. That didn't even take an hour, did it, Crow Slenny? I think that took like what? 45, 50 minutes? I think it was exactly 50 minutes because it's been 1 hour and 7 minutes of streaming. I'm not playing 2.6, but I will play 2.7. I'm pretty happy with that. 91%? See, the thing is, I really, when I told you I was going to play this again, my goal was to play it in a very different way than I did when I first played it in 2018, right? So there was a lot about this that I missed. Most of this I missed, to be honest. So it was really cool to really get in a terrific, a terrific feeling in it, you know. 34 minutes. It was about 34 minutes from your first fight with Radiance. Jesus. I know, I wasn't rushing at all. I really took my time. I mean, did I play like an insane amount of time every day? Yes. Yes, I opened that wildfire yet. So now what happens? Steel soul mode. The fuck? No shade, no reviving. Death is no. Next. No. No. Wow. All right, hold on. Before... Also, I didn't acquire all mask shards. Acquire all charms. Okay, I definitely didn't do that. Salubra's best. Okay, no. Acquire all vessel fragments. Didn't do that. Leave Zote to die? Oh, I didn't leave him to die. Resurrect all the imprisoned grubs. Almost. I had, I think, 7 left. Bring peace to the Grey Mourner. Didn't do that. I don't know what that is. Complete the Trial of the Fool. Almost. Have that last one. Complete the game in under 10 hours. Complete the game in under 5 hours. That I don't know how you could possibly do. I suppose... Achieve 100%. Achieve 100%, finish the game under 20 hours. Finish the game in Steel Soul mode. Achieve 100% completion and finish the game in Steel. Wow. Record all of Hallowness creatures in the Hunter's Journal. I didn't do that. Receive the Hunter's Mark. Didn't do that. Defeat Prince Zote. Defeat Troop Leader Grimm. I didn't fight. I think Radiance is easier than Nightmare Grimm. So let's okay, so first things first, I want to just talk a little bit before I watch the Mossbag video. Well, it finally happened. I finished Hollow Knight, which is really exciting because it was at the very cusp of Silksong. And I have to say, I think Hollow Knight makes a very, very strong case for why we should revisit video games. I think revisiting video games as you change and grow as a person is really important. Not every game will be able to grow with you, but I really firmly believe that that Hollow Knight is a prime example of a game that no matter where you are in your life, whether you've played it when you're 15 or played it when you're 27 or 30 or 38, in my case almost, the game changes. And I've also changed as a gamer. And so it's really interesting to revisit something like this where, now granted, I played it with a wonderful chat here next to me, and they helped me out quite a bit. But the truth of the matter is that I really thought that this game, when I played it in 2018 for the first time, I got the bad ending. I kind of did the Dreamers and moved on, right? But there is something to be said. Now, I understand that everyone and their mother has been playing this game as Silksong, but the time of filming this is around the bend, right? So we're like one day away, you know? However, there is something to be said for revisiting a video game as an adult or as an older person or a younger person or whatever. And allowing it to really seep into your bones and allowing yourself to really experience the game from start to finish in the, you know, the fullest way possible. And Hollow Knight is amazing because, like any Metroidvania, the more you do, the more you are rewarded. And there is something so incredibly charming about this art style where, yes, it is bleak. Yes, it is broken. Yes, it is, you know, a messed up world. And yet there are these little glimmers that Team Cherry has delivered on that are full of joy and full of playfulness. The way that the denizens of Dirtmouth or City of Tears speak to you, it's hard to deny how charming it is. My favorite NPC, the lady in the resting grounds, probably my favorite NPC. They all have their unique charm that makes them extremely memorable. And when it comes to the music, I think that Christopher Larkin did such a great job in setting the stage, setting the scene for this bleak world. Now, I would tell you that in Hollow Knight in general, I would say that the vast majority of tracks, aside from probably a select few, really, really, really deserve to be played and experienced within the context. Now, we can listen to the music outside of the context and vibe with it, try to connect our, feelings to it, what have you. But there's something about that music connecting specifically to the game that just works unbelievably well. There are several tracks like the Mantis Lords, Dung Defender, City of Ruins, that's Nier Automata, City of Tears, and a couple others. Well, the Radiance fight, not to spoil it, that I think work really well out of context and are amazing. And I would happily present those to people that have never heard of Hollow Knight before, non-gamers that you're trying to introduce to the music of Hollow Knight. I think those themes are exceptional. I think there's more, but just off the top of my head, just kind of spitballing here. A lot of the other tracks, though, fall into this category that's very interesting to me, and this was a discussion I saw over on Twitter, for better or for worse, or X, where the complaint was that there wasn't a lot of melodic movement. And it's not the case that there's no melodic movement, but I think the case here is that atmosphere is the predominant purpose of the music at play here. It's not ambient, because it is melodic in its nature, but it also isn't necessarily earwormy or something that you can catch on to and attach yourself to, and it kind of lingers in your subconscious. Now, the tracks that I mentioned are the tracks that I'm still thinking about, especially Mantis Lords being the biggest and most exciting highlight, because at that point, everything's been kind of easy. And then you get to the Mantis Lords, not only are you getting the rhythm of the fight, but also the music of the fight. Very Baroque harpsichord. It's delicious. It's a perfect example of a piece of music that would have been around in Handel's time period and Bach's time period. And I think it's such a triumph for Christopher Larkin. And I think like what I'm really excited about is budget. I'm really excited for Silksong now, because we know what Christopher Larkin can do with the tools that he's been given. What will Silksong sound like? That we've already heard Lace and the other one that's in there. Those are the two that I think I'm really, really excited for what Silksong is going to bring musically. So, Hollow Knight, I am very proud of myself to have played through this game again. I really think it makes for a case of like, you can't just play a game once and be like, okay, it was good, or it was okay. Like revisiting a game, playing it again, there's it was just great from start to finish. I had such a good time with this game. And I think it really speaks to the artistic value of video games as a medium. I mean, Hollow Knight is an artistic masterpiece. You can't really rate a game like this, because it's just, if you like video games and you like art and you explore and enjoy both of those things, well, you're going to get that in spades with Hollow Knight. And I don't need to tell you this if you're watching this or in the live stream while I'm talking about this, right? Like, that's obvious. But the care and attention to all the details, the backgrounds, the foregrounds, the boss fights, the insects, Hollow Knight's abilities, the slightly obtuse but also very interesting and curious story, and the discussion of the shades and life itself, essentially. And like, I mean, even the freaking stag, who's just the transportation system, has the most thoughtful commentary about being the last stag alive and like what it means to lose family and be alone. It's mesmerizing, I think. And I think like there's a lot of depth in here that you just have to look for just a tiny bit. And it really delivers on so much of what makes, I think, video games more than just games, but also art. And that's, I think, something that Hollow Knight really delivers on. Really good gameplay. I don't think it's the most revolutionary Metroidvania ever made. I really don't. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, Metroidvanias are interesting to me because they're not actually a genre of game that I particularly enjoy. I don't really like backtracking, and I think if I didn't have a chat helping me at times, I really don't think that I would have had a great time if I was just playing this solo. There's something about getting lost in the Metroidvania format that really actually bothers me. And I actually really don't enjoy backtracking usually. And I will say that my biggest complaint for Hollow Knight was just the fact that I wish that fast travel was much more available. But of course, there are ways to mitigate that with the Dream Nail. And of course the stagways and all that other stuff. So it's kind of a neither here nor there discussion point. But yeah, overall, I really just had such a good time with this. I feel really, really happy that I played it again. I feel like I misjudged it when I played it in 2018. I thought it was like okay in 2018, and I actually think it's great. I think it's a great piece of video game media. I think it's really delightful. And if you've never played Hollow Knight and you've watched this video, you probably should. You should certainly play this and then play Silksong, or play Silksong first and then go back and play Hollow Knight. I don't think there's any difference, but maybe this has inspired you to pick it up yourself. But if you've played it already and you're kind of like, that's fine, maybe try it again, because it's definitely one of those games that really deserves to be played through twice, or more, depending on who you are. So yeah, I had a great time with this. Thanks for watching. Sweet, guys. All right. Hey, Sarah. I just wanted to get that out there. Oh, I should have recorded that, but that's fine. What was the time on that? 1:18. Let me just write that down. It would have been evil if you redeemed speaking in another... No. 1:18:57. That's what good streamers do, right? They like film their videos, their like reactions. So, okay. King Grim was harder for me than Radiance. Radiance was much more straightforward. I just had to learn it. Plus I got lucky in that last bout, to be honest with you. I got lucky because there were a couple, right when the platforming started, there were a couple positional spots where I was able to slam Radiance with like 5 or 6 hits with Swift Hit. So I actually think I got pretty lucky because there were a couple moments where if things had been slightly off, I would have struggled. Grim is tough because you can't rest ever. Really, really tough. Really tough. So I heard an interesting, it's called skill, not luck. Okay, I'll give myself credit. I heard an interesting commentary about Mossbag's Hollow Knight lore video that someone had finished the game and loved it. Gene Park said this actually. And then when they were done, they went and watched this video and they really didn't like it because of the sort of off the cuff, sort of crass humor. And I found that kind of an interesting commentary. So I'm going in with a neutral mind. I'm going to listen to it and enjoy it. And I'm going to check it out. I want to hear what this sounds like. And then also want to, actually, before we do this, let me just... I also don't want to do the boss gauntlets. Let's do this Path of Pain speed run by Monsteller or Hitless. Let's do Hitless. I don't want to do a speed run. Let's do Hitless. Let's see this. This is Fireborn, 3.3 million views from 7 years ago. Let's check this out. Since I won't be doing this. I tried. I couldn't even make it past the first jump, and I just didn't want to make it past the first jump. Oh, Mossbag's a memer. Oh, that's why. Alright, I want to see this. Right, so you start the jump here. Oh my god, that is so clean. Oh no, I would have hated this. Oh, I would have hated this so hard. It's all pogo. Ooh, god. Oh, lots of pogo. I do love the music in this. This is so beautiful, that sealed vessel. I'm really intrigued to know why the music is the way it is here. I mean, obviously, besides sounding sad, especially when you use, like, it increases. It's dynamic. That's cool. Oh my god. I would have shit myself trying to do this. Oh my god, I would have. Oh my god. Oh wow. So much pogo. That whole section would have taken me an hour, probably. Oh my god, so much pogo. No. No. I would never have thought to do that. Oh, nice. The chorus, such a nice touch. I love how in the sound you can hear like this feeling of just desperation, you know, and like wanting to, what the fucking pogo on the fucking... Wow, that's so hard. What the fuck? This corner right there? Oh my god, awful. Also, how come our Hollow Knight has like messed up, like our ears are not as cool as the other Hollow Knight? And why did they lock that Hollow Knight away? I'm very intrigued by that. And why did he try to kill himself? Because he hated... I feel like Radiance was keeping him locked away and he just like hated his... Oh my, what the fuck? Also the genius to be able to do something like this. What? And there's a fight at the end? Holy shit. I love the way the orchestra swells there. Wow. That's insane. Oh. Oh, so we were a son? We were a son. Pale King, we were the son of the... Oh, we're the prince? We're the prince of the Pale King. Oh, that's not you. All right. Oh, God. Okay, I'm ready. Guys, would you be mad at me if I like milked Hollow Knight right now and like uploaded Opera Singer reacts to Mossbag video? Opera Singer reacts to... He was the vessel before you. I kind of hate people watching other people's videos. But I think I'm in a new era. I think I'm in a new era of my life. Well, yeah, I'm going to watch it. This is the plan. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to me talking about... No, I don't know. Today we're going to be checking out Mossbag's The Mostly Complete Lore of Hollow Knight. I finished up Hollow Knight just the other day, and at the time of filming this, I finished it 10 minutes ago. But I've heard that this is an important video to watch, so I'm going to watch Mossbag's video. So thank you, Mossbag, for making this. Let's go. I will also hopefully not just sit here and watch it, and also offer some sort of insight from my perspective musically. This video contains a few spoilers for Hollow Knight. Please bear in mind before embarking on this journey, or don't. I really don't care. I'm just text on a screen. Fair.
If you were to ask me, what is your favorite video game ever made?
I'd say Final Fantasy IX. I would have to say
Cory in the House for the Nintendo DS. But Hollow Knight would be a close second. Hollow Knight was released on February 24th, 2017 by Team Cherry, an indie game studio based in the mythical land of Adelaide, South Australia. Over the past 3 years, Hollow Knight has become an indie darling. The game has sold over 3.5 million copies. It was the opening game at ADGQ 2019. There's a Hollow Knight book.
There is? Wait. There's a Hollow Knight book? Wait, I kind of want this. Hold on. There's a Hollow Knight book?
ADGQ 2019. There's a Hollow Knight book.
Oh, wow. oh, I want this. Wanderer's Journal, no less. That's such a cool little way to like homage the journals you get in the game. That's really cool. I can't believe I was just thinking about this. Like, I wonder what the cultural zeitgeist of Hollow Knight is. Like I wonder. I don't think it's reached like the pinnacles of, say, Elden Ring, right? But I think it's pretty huge. And I don't think it's just like a cult classic. I think it's like, it's known that Hollow Knight is a very good game. But it's also amazing how, Mossbag makes a point, because it was an indie darling, in the sense that like most indie games sort of like hover below the surface of AAA. And I feel like Hollow Knight kind of, pushed itself out of the fray, obviously.
A line of plushies, t-shirts, nicotine patches, nuclear warheads, and even vinyl records for all you goddamn hipsters. Team Cherry had one goal when making Hollow Knight. They wanted to create a world that allowed players to get completely lost in exploration. We can see this desire in Hollow Knight's design. The levels in Hollow Knight are massive, with secrets and rewards hidden in every nook and cranny, be that powerful charms, special abilities, or the game's navigation system requires the player to work for their map, forcing them to make a stronger mental image of the world in their head. Christopher Larkin's score and Ari Gibson's artwork lend to this as well, creating an atmosphere that the player won't want to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the music of Christopher Larkin there, like I mentioned previously, like there's a sound quality that isn't necessarily like, how typical Metroidvanias tend to, or really, if you look at Castlevania is an extremely lyrical and melodic piece that just constantly is churning out things that you're getting attached to. The musical loop in Castlevania is intentional because it allows you to like consume the gameplay and also consume the music, and it's like the music and the gameplay are connected. Whereas I think in some ways Hollow Knight's music, while it is absolutely essential, it lives a little bit in the background ever so slightly, except for certain pieces like Hornet, Doug Defender, so on and so forth, City of Tears, right? Those are intentional. And I think those are intentional on, like, it's on purpose that they're a little bit more in the foreground. But it's interesting because this is very much about the atmosphere in the world, kind of like a 2D, I don't want to, people are getting mad, like a 2D FromSoft kind of, like there's a Metroidvania elements there. This was definitely the first 2D game that I ever played that I was like, oh, this reminds me of a FromSoft game. I know it's not a Souls-like, whatever, like I'm not going to get into the semantics, but I find it pretty interesting how this differentiates itself from the standard Castlevania, because Metroid, on the flip side, if I recall, Metroid is pretty ambient, and so it kind of fuses the two styles together, which is nice. Just a thought while I was listening.
But there's one aspect of Hollow Knight that keeps people like me coming back: the world building.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite part. I think the world building was definitely the part that I enjoyed more than playing it in 2018. I feel like in 2018, I played it with the intention of beating it. And I think that Hollow Knight, you can't really play it to beat it. You play it to play it, to get lost in it. You play it to get lost in it. You play it to explore it. You play it to lose yourself into this world. You play it, and I think it's also really cool how in a 2D Metroid style game, you're still able to like consume and I guess sort of, kind of go wherever you want to go. And there is this like feeling in it, I think, overall of like, shit, I don't know if I take a left, will I be able to take a right? What happens if I go down here? Oh, there's a path down here. And then suddenly you're in a totally different area and you didn't even realize it. For some people that is like delightful. For others, it's like immensely stressful. It just depends on what kind of gamer you are, right? But I do think that that Mossbag is right, that the world building and the lore and the visual style and the music and all that stuff sort of allows it to basically feel like an open world, but just in a 2D format, which is really cool. This is going to turn into a 3-hour video.
When Super Metroid launched in 1994, it stood out for its amazing sense of immersion.
Oh yeah,
now,
okay.
In 1994, I was busy not being alive. but I've watched enough YouTube video essays to know that this game was a big deal. In case you didn't know, Super Metroid is basically the
My boy was
granddaddy
not
of all
alive in
Metroidvanias.
1994. I was already
That's
in
why
Italy.
they're called Metroidvanias.
Correct.
Now in Super Metroid, there are moments that give the player a sense of depth. Basically, the feeling that this world exists outside of Samus's interactions.
Hold on. Do
with
you
it.
hear how like that Metroid music? Now, obviously, if you're here watching this, you're watching this because I'm an opera singer and we're talking about music. But like, do you hear all that? Even though it has some rhythm, it's pretty like bom bom. There's not really like a melodic movement in it, and that's sort of interesting how Hollow Knight fuses the Castlevania stuff with the Metroid stuff, creating that, well, not that it created Metroidvanias, but it fuses the two identities in a really beautiful way.
In the room right before that diabetic crocodile thing, Samus can find the corpse of a random soldier. His inclusion here doesn't change the gameplay at all, but instead gives the player a sense of wonder about the world they are exploring. Who was this guy? Why was he here in the first place? Did he like jazz? Now, finding dead bodies and other random garbage is pretty cool, right? Well, Hollow Knight basically does the same thing.
Look at that,
about
though.
a dozen times.
Yeah.
Through its world building, Hollow Knight turns Hallownest into a living kingdom. You can sense the ancient history of the land when you look at dilapidated structures or giant barred doors.
Don't we just call that, don't we call that environmental storytelling? That's something I really like. Environmental storytelling is always so interesting because it's like the positioning of a chair, or in this case, this image of this bug hanging up. It's like where they like dissecting this bug. Did this bug die? Why are there dishes here? You know, all this stuff was left there intentionally, not just because it looks cool, but like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like the whole thing here is, this is what world building and environmental storytelling, the term environmental storytelling did not exist when this video was made. That is not true. That is not true. Environmental storytelling has been a thing for before Mossbag was alive, as he mentioned.
Feels like it was put into the game randomly. There's a reason for it all. Except those reasons aren't the easiest to uncover.
What the hell is that? I missed that room.
It is buried under layers of NPC dialogue, item descriptions, lore tablets, and even additional content like the Quarrel comic and Fangamer's Wanderer's Journal. These past 3 years have seen an insane amount of research by the Hollow Knight community to make sense of Team Cherry's sprawling world.
What the fuck did that just say? Did that just say how to eat ass?
Hollow Knight community to make sense of Team Cherry's sprawling world. We've even made it to the point where people are looking at the in-game signs to try and decipher Hallownest's logographic language. In this video, I hope to give you a long and detailed look into the world of Hollow Knight, exploring Hallownest's history and uncertain future. When I'm not busy making surprisingly accurate Super Smash Bros. Roster speculation videos, or insightful podcasts about beloved subjects like the Donkey Kong Country television series, or whatever this was supposed to be, I'm usually making videos about Hollow Knight. And while I am a seasoned Hollow Knight lore expert, I cannot confirm that every musing or theory presented in this video is completely correct. I highly recommend checking out the lore section of the Hollow Knight wiki if you want a more neutral explanation of Hollow Knight's lore.
Did you just call it wiki?
But if you're too lazy to read, then I suggest you sit back, order some Domino's pizza, or just grab a block of cheese from the fridge and enjoy the mostly complete lore of Hollow Knight. It's a simple fact of life that every human worships a god, be that technology, ideologies, or in rare cases, God. As it turns out, the bugs in Hallownest pretty much operate in the same way. From the Mosskin born from the dream of a giant slug, to the emo kids of the ancient civilization who literally worship the darkness, there is no shortage of things to worship in the world of Hollow Knight. Our story begins with a creature very much worthy of worship. A creature born from the carcass of a worm. The carcass can still be found in the Kingdom's Edge, and it's our only good look at what worms actually look like.
A creature born from a
At the time
worm?
Hollow Knight occurs, it is suggested there are no worms left in the world.
Oh!
They were incredibly long creatures that featured little to no limbs. Another more mysterious property of worms was that they had some kind of prescience or foresight. Basically, they could see the future to some capacity. It isn't clear how effective this ability was. Considering how the entire race went extinct, this foresight ability must have been pretty shit. Getting back to this particular worm carcass, it is
Wait,
explained
pause.
that this worm traveled across the distant mountains and wastelands beyond Hallownest. Once it arrived in Hallownest, the worm died. Except not really. Inside the maw of the carcass sits a pale broken egg, out of which hatched a new form of worm, a being of meager shell. This form of the worm is usually referred to as the Pale King.
Oh, what?
He's the character basically responsible for everything that happens in Hollow Knight.
Oh, so what? How do you know that? That's crazy. Why would you put two and two together? That's insane. How would you be like, oh, of course the worm produced. How? How is that? I also forgot that we were inside the worm at one point. Huh. That's fascinating. Also, forgive me, I've never watched someone else's videos for a video besides Iron Mouse. So I'm also learning as we're watching. So I hope this isn't just like me accidentally plagiarizing this video. I don't.
Meager shell. This form of the worm is usually referred to as the Pale King, and he's the character basically responsible for everything that happens.
Oh no, I believe
in
him.
Hollow
I
Knight.
just am shocked.
The
that,
Pale King is a
that he
higher
found
being,
this.
a type of creature that exists above all others.
Right. This
His
was the
body
pale-
was
okay.
said to shine with a radiant visage that harmed those who looked upon him. The ultimate goal of the Pale King seemed to be in line with that of other worms. A line from the cryptic Mr. Mushroom reads, "Worms pull bugs into their thrall, till ages pass and kingdoms fall." In other words, it's just in their nature. Dogs wag their tails, cats bury their shit, and worms bring massive amounts of bugs into their service in order to form long-standing kingdoms and civilizations. And here in a far corner of the world, the Pale King emerged from the corpse of his former self and began to build his eternal kingdom, Hallownest. There's this one slight problem. There's like people already living there. The area that would eventually become Hallownest was already filled with mantises, bees, moths, spiders, mushrooms, and bush cosplayers.
Oh, so I'm not going to acknowledge that. So these are already denizens of Hallownest. But so in the worm is over here at Kingdom's Edge. Okay. I didn't realize that there was colonialization of Hallownest.
Each of these groups were already operating with their own cultures and societies.
That's cool.
And each
I didn't put
group
this
had
together.
a different interaction with the Pale King.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that all these masks, these are all sort of indicators. Well, obviously this is the Mantis Village, but I never put two and two together that the background and the foreground and all the different stuff here, like the masks and then these mantis swords, scythes, whatever you want to call them, they were all part of this area because that's simply where the mantis lords live. Where the mantises live. Oh.
One of the more receptive groups to the arrival of the Pale King were the mushrooms of the fungal wastes. These creatures were able to communicate with one another through one shared mind.
Oh yeah.
The mushrooms viewed this shared mind as a strength, and they were kind of smug dickheads about it. Ultimately, the mushrooms wearily accepted the Pale King's rule, viewing his foresight as a shield to the dangers of the future. Another group living in the fungal wastes is the Mantis tribe. The Mantises have a rich cultural history reaching back to long before the birth of Hallownest. The Mantises are a proud tribe, believing in the importance of proving one's physical strength. The Mantises are fiercely territorial, but will show respect to those who display great power.
Right.
These Fight Club enthusiasts were led by 4 powerful Mantis Lords, who I guess just kind of sat around waiting for outsiders to challenge them. The Mantis tribe had no interest in the Pale King's kingdom, but the two communities did come to a truce. In exchange for their independence from Hallownest, the Mantis tribe kept the beasts of Deepnest from invading Hallownest. Not sure why they didn't just go out the other exits from Deepnest, but whatever. I'm not an expert on border patrol.
See, no one wants to
I don't
be
work
in
at ICE
Deepnest.
anymore. Let's move on to Deepnest. Now, many of the different tribes of Hallownest were kind enough to leave lore tablets behind, detailing pretty much everything we need to know about them. Unfortunately, the bugs of Deepnest didn't do that. We know that the spiders of Deepnest had a monarchy because why not? Those are always good, right? Also, within Deepnest are a separate group of spiders that immigrated to Deepnest at some point in the past. This group was known as the Weavers, and they established their own culture and history within Deepnest.
Wow.
They used looms of silk to weave stories, spells, and shields. One thing we know for sure about Deepnest is that they really didn't want anything to do with Hallownest. The struggles of Deepnest-Hallownest relations would become painfully clear as time goes on, but for right now, it seems like the two remained fairly isolated from one another. Another section of pre-Hallownest includes Greenpath. Now, as far as we can tell, the mushrooms, mantises, and spiders of Deepnest didn't worship any higher beings. There is this giant mushroom corpse in the fungal core,
Right.
but I don't think this is a higher being. I mean, who the hell would want to worship a fat-ass mushroom? Fat-ass slugs? Now that's dope. The land we know as Greenpath was created by the higher being known as Un. Un used her great
the Lake
mind
of
to
Un.
dream the vegetation of Greenpath into the once barren caverns.
Oh, wow.
Un's followers, the Mosskin, were also born out of Un's dream, making her their creator. Greenpath at its height was actually much larger than we see in-game. At one point, Greenpath stretched into both modern-day Queen's Garden and possibly Fog Canyon. Greenpath's citizens showed themselves to be a fairly developed society. They built a temple at the Lake of Un in order to worship her.
All right.
And they even had their own line of defense, with
Right.
Moss Knights showing proficiency in combat, using nails
camouflage.
and shells as weapons. The Law of Un continued to remain in effect even after the Pale King arrived, but it seems like they allowed the king to establish a road through their lands, leading travelers to the heart of Hallownest. Hence the name Greenpath. Yeah, Team Cherry really racked their brains when naming this area, didn't they? Next, we have the bees. And while there is no lore on how these bees can turn into fucking drills, or how they can ignore all known laws of aviation, we do know how they reacted to the Pale King. These bugs decided to seal their hive off from the rest of the world, with only patrol bees being able to enter and exit the hive.
So, you know, what's interesting about this whole thing is that essentially what we actually end up getting is like the geopolitical like circumstances of each individual area and region, which is really cool because it's all mixed and matched, and each region feels really, you know, created as it's created, but there's all like significant movement. So learning all this lore and stuff when you're in these places again, it actually almost feels like you can, I don't know, I actually always love learning the little details of like why, like, you know, now that I know why the bees are the way they are, like that's why the bees kind of spill into other parts of the landscape, or why Greenpath, I never even thought about what Greenpath meant until, you know, Mossbag explained the connection there and the path to I assume the City of Ruins. So it's all very intriguing.
So yeah, the bees are pretty much pointless in this story. And finally we have the Moth Tribe. In-game, the only moth settlement is in the Resting Grounds, but the tribe might have also inhabited the Crystal Peak at one point. Now,
So,
as we all know,
were they killed
moths
off?
in real life are just complete assholes. As for the moths in Hollow Knight, well, it's a bit complicated.
The
moth
light.
race
She
is
was,
described as being a rather pacifist group,
they
with
were
few
removed
ever
from
choosing
the-
to take up a weapon.
Uh-huh.
During the Pale King's reign, the moth race delved amongst dreams and the dead, displaying the importance of remembering those who have passed,
Right.
as well as learning how to shape dreams themselves. Similar to the Mothkin, the Moth Tribe was born from a higher being known as the Radiance.
Oh, that's the
is
Radiance.
described as being a light in which the Moth Tribe basked.
Oh my God, how did I not put
So she
two
was
and two
basically
together?
a giant lamp to them. Another important aspect about the Radiance is her ties to dreams and a substance known as essence. Essence are the remains of wishes and dreams, and are represented in-game by these dream catcher particle effects.
Oh, I wonder how then with the Hollow Knight, why we had to tap into the Hollow Knight's subconscious to then go and fight the Radiance, because the Radiance lives at the top of the forbidden, or the part over on the right, and I remember that statue, and it's like, huh, okay.
Essence can take the form of whispering roots, as well as dream ghosts, both of which are memories taking root in the world. The Radiance appears to be a creature made of essence, but she isn't the only higher being to give off essence. Un has green particles, the Pale King has gray particles, and this sexy character named Grim gives off fiery red particles. However, the Radiance appears to be the main god when it comes to dreams, even if other gods also dabble in the dream realm. Getting back to the Moth Tribe, it is their interaction with the Pale King that we need to discuss.
Oh, okay.
Basically, the moths turned their backs on the Radiance completely, in order to worship the new light that had appeared, the Pale King's light. So yeah, Moths are assholes in this game too. With her tribe forsaking her, the Radiants became a forgotten memory, a remnant of the past, and a thing that's definitely not going to come up again later in this video. And so the Pale King's new kingdom was established, Hallownest. But there is one aspect of Hallownest that we need to discuss. Unfortunately, to better understand this, we're going to have to read some poetry. In Wilds Beyond they speak your name with reverence and regret.
I love poetry.
For none could tame our savage souls, yet you the challenge met. Under palest watch you taught, we changed. Base instincts were redeemed. A world you gave to bug and beast as they had never dreamed. This is from a poem titled Elegy for Hallownest, written by Motomon the Teacher. The poem appears at the beginning of every playthrough, and hints at what the Pale King and his kingdom offered. Much of the land outside of Hallownest appears to be a wasteland, where bugs survive off of instinct, without the burden of mind. Hallownest somehow taught these bugs and tamed their savagery. Basically, the Pale King changed the instincts of his subjects, and granted them higher thought. To get a better picture of this, let's look at two different characters, Boone and Tuck. These adorable panda bug things give us a clear display of Hallownest's effect. While both appear to be the same species of bug, Boone is dumb
guys, I think I didn't meet either one of them.
As a sack of rocks, struggling to string together words, while Tuck speaks fairly clearly.
I definitely
The
didn't.
main difference
I know I
between
met
these two
Tuck.
characters is that while Boone lives outside of Hallownest, Tuck lives beneath the city's capital. Basically, it appears as though Hallownest is a literal holy ground that raises the intelligence of those who dwell within.
Oh.
The Pale King established a path, starting from the kingdom's entrance in King's Pass,
Right.
winding through Greenpath and the fungal wastes, and finally ending at the massive capital at Hallownest's heart. We now know the capital city as the City of Tears, but that was likely not its original name. The rain that falls down onto the city from the blue lake above didn't begin until after the kingdom collapsed. So unless the capital was originally named by some edgy literature student, the name City of Tears wouldn't have made much sense.
But why did the
king's motivation for all this appears to have been his desire to be worshipped. The citizens of Hallownest believe that the Pale King created the world and everything in it. Shrines to the king can be found scattered throughout the kingdom, and king's idols were created and distributed to followers of the king. Despite the worship, the Pale King often kept himself hidden from his subjects, possibly to hide his blemishes. I mean, if you look at the size of the real Pale King to his statue in the ancient basin, the man is clearly overcompensating. The Pale King's White Palace was also built underneath the city, separating him from his subjects even more so. At the same time, certain powers became shunned in Hallownest, though we don't know for sure if the Pale King had anything to do with this.
I wonder why he
Lifeblood is a blue liquidy substance
Why he
that
hid
leaves
himself.
those who drink it feeling refreshed. However, the use of lifeblood was seen as a taboo, and those who used it were demonized as heretics. The use of soul for combat was also shunned. Soul is a sort of life force in Hollow Knight that animates the bodies of living creatures. But some characters are able to control the soul of others to conjure powerful spirits. But aside from a few exceptions, no citizens of Hallownest ever used this power. However, the Pale King didn't rule alone. There was another higher being in the mix, a being known as the White Lady. The White Lady is a weird brute-like being that can be found in the modern-day Queen's Gardens.
Right.
She is encased in a strange cocoon,
I
and we know very
loved the
little
harp
about
in
it.
this.
With as much exposition we get for the Pale King, there is next to nothing on the White Lady. But one thing we do know is that she likes to breed. Like, a lot. The White Lady would often retreat to the Queen's Gardens, an area of land once controlled by the Mosskin. How exactly she walked around and actually went places is a lore question too deep for even my expertise. The White Lady is also known as a pale being, along with the Pale King. What exactly are pale beings? Well, we don't know for sure, but they seem to stand out even amongst higher beings, as being even more powerful. I know that's a little confusing, so let's try using an example. I'd say that regular higher beings are like a TP-Link Archer C7 AC1750 wireless dual-band gigabit router, while pale beings are like the Asus RT-AX88U AX6000 dual-band 8X gigabit Wi-Fi router. Under the Pale King, Hallownest underwent a bit of an industrial revolution. He ordered the construction of the stagways, which were used to transport passengers and goods, the Forgotten Crossroads, and the storerooms above the City of
it seems like
Tears.
with anything, when there's a dominant power, a lot of good things happen and then a ton of bad things happen, right? Like there's this middle, in the middle is like the reality, but like there's the two extremes at any given moment, like how we shun the heretical use of, the lifeblood, the shadow skills, the shade skills, like all that stuff. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Were used to store goods that traveled along these stagways. The
He
king
admits in
also
another
ordered the
video he was
construction
wrong.
of the
Ah, okay.
tramways because
Pails are
literally
just his
no one
powers.
is safe
Okay.
from the threat of automation. A tram was built between the Forgotten Crossroads and the Resting Grounds. A second tram was built from the Kingdom's Edge across the ancient basin over to Deep Nest. And then a third tram was started in Deep Nest and attempted to go further into Deep Nest. Not sure how useful that would have been to the bugs of Hallownest.
It's so
but
cool too, by the
whatever.
way, how like everything is connected. So even though like this is this big massive world, it all kind of stems from the king's domain outward. And I feel like while you're playing, it doesn't really like, you don't really like think about it. Like you see the visuals, like obviously I knew that the trams were connected, but I didn't consider that like it goes from point A to point B, right? And it's intentionally that way because of the king's domain in this industrial revolution, right?
The Pale King's a smart guy. I'm not gonna question him. But anyway, the Pale King's super smart plan to build a tram in Deep Nest ended up getting a few of his tram workers killed. The bugs of Deep Nest rejected the Pale King's attempt to build a tram in their territory, further cementing the poor relations shared between the two groups. Aside from convenient fast
I wonder if that's
travel,
why they attack you
regular
so
pathways
hard.
were also used to cart goods around the kingdom. From this was born probably one of the most important groups in Hallownest, and perhaps even all of fiction. An elusive guild of bugs, simply known as the Menderbugs, took to maintaining the various signs scattered throughout Hallownest. From the journal entry of one Menderbug, we can catch a glimpse into their ancient and unknowable minds.
Dear, dear diary, isn't life just the most beautiful thing? Fixing signs, mending posts, let them break, I say. I'm a better mender for all that repairing. I sometimes doubt there's a single bug in all of Hallownest happier than me.
Another example of the Pale King's expanding infrastructure is the Crystal Peak. This area is filled with crystals that grow rapidly along walls, ceilings, and even the shells of certain bugs. These crystals were considered valuable to the bugs of Hallownest, resulting in large-scale mining efforts. We don't actually see the crystals used anywhere else in Hallownest, but they are said to contain a sort of energy. The crystals are also said to sing, if you listen very carefully.
Oh my god. And so do
In
I.
terms of military, Hallownest's first line of defense appeared to be a group simply known as the Five Great Knights.
Oh yes, I wanted to know about
The
this.
members of this esteemed coalition were Ogrim, Hagamol, Zamir, Drya, and Isma.
Oh my
For being
god,
so
what?
important, most of the information about these knights has been lost to time. Ogrim is the knight we know the most about, since he is one of the few knights still alive during the events of the game. Ogrim expressed a great amount of loyalty towards the king, and he maybe had something going on
Which is why
with
he's
Isma,
called the White Defender
but we
in
really
the-
don't know. Hagamol was known for his sense of humor and his soft-spoken voice, but at the same time, he was also dummy thick. Mysterious Zamir arrived in Hallownest from a serene land, bringing with her a collection of delicate flowers. At some point, she also got into a relationship with a mantis, but not just any mantis, a daughter of one of the mantis lords. So yeah, it seems like these great knights were slaying in more ways than one. All we really know about Drya is that she was fierce, caring, and wise. As for Isma, she was described as being kind. She also appears to be some sort of weird plant life form, but there's no information on where she's from or what her powers were.
Wow, that's crazy.
The Five
that-
Great Knights played an important role in the Champion's Call, the Knotted Grove, and the Battle of the Blackworm. We have no idea what these events were or how they affected Hallownest, but they sound cool nonetheless. During Hallownest's reign, there was another strange area that seemed to exist separate from the Pale King's rule. Carved out of the corpse of an ancient bug, an area called the Colosseum of Fools was constructed, and it was a destination for warriors from outside Hallownest. The sole purpose for fighting in the Colosseum appeared to be simply for glory, with a mysterious figure known as the Lord Fool overseeing the combat. We don't know when the Colosseum was constructed or if the Pale King was involved, But one of his servants, the Pale Lurker, became a champion in the Colosseum, perhaps indicating the Pale King's approval. And finally, there was the royal waterways.
Yeah, but the Pale
where the
Lurker
fecal
was just like
excrement
stuck
of
up
the
there.
kingdom was
Kinda...
washed out into the fungal wastes. This area saw the rise of a species of parasite-like creatures called the flukes. The flukes spawned from the fluke marm, a giant monster with cavities in which tinier flukes live. There really isn't too much lore involved with the flukes, but I do need to point out that the fluke marm is canonically a MILF. Like, that's not even debatable. The sky is blue, 2 + 2 = 4, and we all want to fuck this thing. And so this was the kingdom of Halnest at its height. Halnest was a vast kingdom
For the record, I don't want to fuck that thing.
connected by a network of stagways and tram stations. The bugs of Halnest mourned their dead on the resting grounds, engaged in commerce using Geo, the de facto currency of the region, and a thriving capital located in the middle of the kingdom. The Pale King had succeeded in crafting a full-blown society, but we all know there are pitfalls to living in a society. As a suspiciously knowledgeable hunter
The hell's
points out
that?
in his journal, the Pale King had created a population of weak and pathetic creatures. The bugs of Halnest did not hunt for their own food and had become complacent with their comfort. This is even more obvious with the east wing of the capital. These greedy members of Halnest's high society became complete cowards, obsessed with riches and plum from excess wealth. The bugs living in Halnest Prime looked quite different than the instinctive simpletons they once were.
Well, and that lady even says, like, I don't even recognize who these people are anymore. Remember she says that? It's really interesting.
Savagery had been replaced with intelligence, and through that intellect, they gave the Pale King the devotion and service he desired.
I mean, it's kind of amazing that the Pale King had all this like availability to intelligence, and like basically his omnipresence led to like led to knowledge and understanding and like, you know, the growth of communication and you know, like he talks about the Industrial Revolution, all this other stuff. Like, it's pretty intriguing how the Pale King actually provided a lot for the society that was within his purview.
And while there were a few snags along the way,
Right.
they were shining times for the king and his subjects. Resting at the threshold of Halnest is a strange lore tablet, proclaiming Halnest to be the last and only civilization. It calls Halnest an eternal kingdom. This appears to have been the Pale King's goal, for Halnest to stand against a wasted world as a final beacon for civilization. And that was the Pale King's ultimate folly, to think that he could succeed where so many others had failed before.
But that also means that in Silksong, we'll probably end up going to that world that is broken and dilapidated and stuff, right? That world outside of the Pale King's purview. What, even if, you know, broken and who knows?
Long before the Pale Kings or the Barry Bensons of the world, the land of Halnest was controlled by an ancient caste. Hints of Halnest's history are littered throughout the land, with the most notable examples being the soul totems and arcane eggs. One sect of these ancient bugs didn't worship a god like the Pale King or any lord, but instead a dark and mysterious substance known as the Void.
Oh.
This ancient caste once also tried to lay claim to the entire land of Halnest, but they too failed. In his quest to conquer all of Halnest, the Pale King had made an enemy long forgotten, an enemy that was about to be remembered. I mentioned earlier that the Moth tribe entirely forgot about the Radiants in order to worship the Pale King, but that isn't quite true. Memories of her still lingered, and hushed whispers of faith kept the Radiants alive. At the summit of the Crystal Peak, a location known as Halnest Crown, a strange collection of glyphs can be found. Joining these glyphs is a statue of the Radiants, presiding over the kingdom below. This old summit is the sole standing shrine left to the Radiants. This was built in order to keep the memory of the Radiants alive. The Radiants' light began to appear in the dreams of Halnest citizens. This light manifested itself in an infection that ravaged through the kingdom's tunnels.
Oh.
Those infected would fall into a deep sleep and awaken with broken minds. Some of the lesser bugs tried to resist the Radiants' light, which only resulted in them being consumed by it even more so. Many infected bugs lost their wills and began attacking bugs that weren't infected. The infection also twisted the bodies of its hosts, causing them to bloat and occasionally develop orange cysts on their bodies. For many victims, they were reverted back to their basic instincts, carrying out the duties they once fulfilled in life.
But this is really interesting because essentially the Radiance slash the Moth, whatever, queen or, whatever, royalty, was kept alive through belief, which is very interesting, isn't it? The fact that belief was able to sustain the Moth from ever perishing, and that the believing in it strongly enough and believing in it fervently enough, even if it's quiet, enabled it to retain itself. And then eventually that belief, as it continued to percolate, turned whatever the Pale King essentially. It's interesting because in my mind, I thought that the Moths would be like good, but it seems to me like there's actually this adversarial clash where they feel the Pale King is dangerous and polluting the bugs, but then the Moth is reverting the bugs back to bugdom, but then also spreading that infection, which is inherently negative. So that's very intriguing.
But now as mindless slaves. Those caught up in the infection were linked into the Radiance's hive mind, allowing her to control their bodies if needed. As the infection spread across Hallownest, many groups looked to solutions to fight off the Radiance's light. The gates to the City of Tears were closed in an attempt to keep the infection from reaching the city.
I see.
The stagways were also shut down at some point, and many of the stags eventually died out, but some took more proactive efforts against the infection. The scholars of the Soul Sanctum decided to harness the power of Soul in an attempt to fight the infection. This resulted in the deaths of hundreds of bugs, whose souls were sucked out and injected into the bodies of the scholars. Their goal was to achieve some kind of pure focus, which would somehow protect them from plagues of the mind. The scholars' leader, the Soul Master, was driven mad by the sheer power of Soul, and his entire sect failed to avoid infection.
Oh, wow.
But hey, at least they took as many innocent people down with them as they could.
That's actually immensely dark. I never even put two. I mean, I knew obviously we saw the bodies and stuff, but I never really pondered how dark this could go.
Mantis tribe, showing a stronger will than the common bug, were able to stave off the infection. However, one of the 4 Mantis Lords turned against his sisters. He and his followers took in the infection willingly, as it gave them more strength and courage. At some point during all this, the Traitor Lord and his followers were exiled from the Mantis village, eventually taking up residence in the Queen's Gardens. The Traitor Lord's daughter ended up dying at some point. This is the same Mantis that was in a relationship with Zamir, one of the 5 Great Knights. But the Mantises rejected their union because of Zamir's outsideness. As a gamer, this type of prejudice is all too familiar, and honestly, it makes me sick. With the 5 Great Knights completely useless to fight against the infection, the Pale King devised his own scheme. A scheme involving a strange substance known as Void. As I mentioned earlier, the Pale King's White Palace was built in an area called the Ancient Basin, but his castle wasn't the only noteworthy thing down there. At the bottom of the Ancient Basin was the entrance to a pit known as the Abyss. Within the Abyss was a lake composed of void. The Pale King realized that this void could be given form, as evidenced by an imprint of such deep within the Abyss, possibly left there by the ancient civilization that predated Hallownest. The Pale King devised a workshop in his palace, where he placed void in armor shells imbued with soul.
So those lightning guys are actual
molds and wing molds. These void creatures were somehow imprinted with the desire of the Pale King.
Hey, wait, that's the collector. That's the collector's shape. I see.
That they would serve him. It isn't clear when the Pale King started making these creatures. There is evidence to imply that even common bugs were aware of King's molds. But the point is, the Pale King turned to the void in order to create another creature, one that he believed could contain the Radiance and her infection. He tried to create a pure vessel. The Radiance's infection needs its host to have a will and a mind in order to enslave it. A pure vessel would be a creature made of void designed to lack those features. The Pale King believed that by harnessing the void inside a pure vessel, he would be able to stop the infection and keep Hallownest lasting.
So the hollow vessel was infected, and it was supposed to be Oh wow, that's so cool.
But his method for creating this so-called pure vessel was incredibly cruel. This is where the White Lady and her King Kong-sized libido come into play.
Oh god.
These two higher beings engaged in a union of some kind, resulting in the creation of several eggs that were dropped down into the abyss. There, the void seeped into these eggs, corrupting the offspring of the Pale King and the White Lady. This act resulted in the creation of the vessels. The vessels are not technically considered to be alive. They are shells created from the Pale King and White Lady that have been filled with the void. Within each vessel is a shade, a completely void being hidden behind the face of the vessel. Vessels are also non-gendered, I guess because they're dead or something? I'm not sure if that's how that works, but whatever. I'm not an expert on these kinds of things. I don't work at ICE anymore. Thousands of vessels were created during this process, but only one was chosen as the pure vessel. This particular vessel, chosen by the Pale King, was deemed the Hollow Knight, and was taken away to the White Palace. But I want to take a bit of a closer look at this part of the story. There are a number of questions and theories surrounding this moment that I really want to dig into.
Yeah.
The big question surrounding this moment is, why was the Hollow Knight chosen over any other vessel? One common theory is that the Pale King took these vessels back to the White Palace and evaluated them using his giant collection of buzzsaws. This theory is probably the least likely explanation. It kinda exists just to explain the buzzsaws, which is quite the mystery, I'll admit.
Oh my
But
god.
it doesn't really mesh with the vessels very well.
That's what it looks like when you're not trying to do it. Whoa. If you look at that, you would have no clue what to do. That's so interesting how like it's created in a way that actually helps you not feel totally overwhelmed but be challenged. That's very interesting.
How does being good at Super Meat Boy prove that you are a worthy vessel? And while thinking about logistics in a game about magic bugs is never a good idea, how exactly did the Pale King transfer these thousands of vessels to his palace without characters like the Dung Defender finding out? So this means that the Pale King probably made his decision without taking any of the vessels out of the abyss. So how did the Pale King make his evaluation? I think the best explanation comes from a theory I originally heard from a user named Golden Flower Fan. Basically, the vessels were hatched down at the bottom of the abyss, and the first one to make it to the top was chosen by the Pale King. In a memory of this event, we see vessels falling from above back down into the pit of the abyss.
Right.
Perhaps these vessels weren't being cast down into the abyss, but fell while trying to escape out of it. The lore tablet outside the abyss appears to support this theory. It reads, "Our pure vessel has ascended. Beyond lies only the refuse and regret of its creation. We shall enter that place no longer." This
Meaning,
tablet
like,
was
kitchen's
likely
closed.
written right after the Hollow Knight was chosen, considering that is when the entrance to the abyss was sealed off.
But when we start at the King's Road. Okay, I have questions about the timeline.
The tablet proclaims that the pure vessel has ascended, or in other words, climbed out of the abyss. And while cut content should never be considered canon, I would just like to point out that an earlier version of this tablet, found in the game's code, was even more explicit about this. It read, "From below, our pure vessel has ascended." But how does making it to the top of the abyss first prove that the Hollow Knight is somehow a perfectly hollow vessel? Well, I think this whole concept might just be a misconception. What if the Hollow Knight wasn't any different from the other vessels? All the vessels were made in the exact same way after all.
Right.
The idea that the Hollow Knight was somehow more hollow than the other vessels comes from the fact that there were so many vessels created in the first place. If they only needed one, then why create so goddamn many? I mean, this is like Octomom on steroids. Well, these are bugs we're talking about.
Oh my god, what an old
so
reference.
it would make sense that multiple offspring
This
would
video
come
is so
from
old
one
at this
egg.
point, 7 years.
And it might have been a precaution to produce multiple vessels in
So you had a
hopes that at
backup.
least one would be able to successfully
Exactly.
escape the abyss. Now another explanation could be that the Pale King just yeeted other vessels that made it to the top first, after determining that they weren't hollow, which would better explain why so many were created. Ultimately, the exact details aren't super important, but I do find it interesting how many different interpretations can be pulled from this part of the lore.
I mean, it is
After the Hollow Knight was
thousands of
chosen,
hollows.
the Pale King sealed the doorway to the abyss, leaving the discarded vessels to rot away in darkness. These actions were not taken lightly by the Pale King or the White Lady. Both participants expressed shame in what they did, but saw no other option to save the kingdom. But the vessels weren't the only poor saps sealed away in the abyss. There's also a lighthouse that was built on top of a naturally formed spire, its light shining down on an ocean of abyss below. Inside was one of the Pale King's royal retainers, who was left in charge of keeping the lighthouse turned on. So this brave soul was willingly sealed in a dark and dangerous tomb for the rest of his life, just so he could not pull a lever. Well, at least he was living with purpose. With the abyss sealed and the Hollow Knight chosen, the Pale King's plan was beginning to come together. The Hollow Knight was raised and trained to prime form, causing it to grow several times its original size. We don't know exactly why this happened, but I guess the Hollow Knight is just a grower and not a shower.
Oh my god.
We know that the Hollow Knight was trained to use a nail, but why was this even necessary?
What is that?
One possible explanation is that the Hollow Knight needed to protect itself in case an intruder tried to kill it.
But then again, why was it sealed away? That's another great question too that I have. And also look at the crack here. Why was it sealed away? I'm asking questions that are going to be answered in the video. I'm just trying to... What's up? I'm just trying to participate. So this isn't like your typical reaction video. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no. Good. Cool.
Like the player. Or perhaps this was important in the process of containing
Pantheon?
the
Okay,
radiance.
I see.
Unfortunately, the details of that are never fully explained. The Hollow Knight might have somehow focused the radiance inside itself, but Team Cherry gives us no explanation of how that might have worked.
Right.
But that still wasn't
Or
enough
why.
for the Pale King. Additional seals were needed in order to protect the Hollow Knight's physical body while the radiance was trapped inside of it. To achieve this, the Pale King sought the help of three particular bugs.
Wait. Sorry. I was talking and I got distracted.
Perhaps this was an intruder. One possible explanation is that the Hollow Knight needed to protect itself in case an intruder tried to kill it. You know, like the player. Or perhaps this was important in the process of containing the radiance. Unfortunately, the details of that are never fully explained. The Hollow Knight might have somehow focused the radiance inside itself, but Team Cherry gives us no explanation of how that might have worked. But that still wasn't enough for the Pale King.
So we actually don't know why the radiance is inside the Hollow Knight.
Additional seals were needed in order to protect the Hollow Knight's physical body while the radiance was trapped inside of it. To achieve this, the Pale King sought the help of three particular bugs, who would later be known as the Dreamers: Lurien the Watcher, Motomon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast. Lurien is definitely the most mysterious of the three Dreamers. He lived in the Watcher's Spire in the City of Tears. From there, Lurien watched over the city with his telescope. Lurien was a pretty big fan of the king, so it probably took little convincing for him to lie down for him. Lurien might also be tied to another strange incident that occurred in the City of Tears. Hidden on some of Lurien's lore tablets are images of jars, the same jars that can be found stockpiled in the Tower of Love.
Oh yeah.
This building sits on the outskirts of the city, and is the setting of one of the most bizarre bosses in the game, the Collector.
Ooh!
The Collector is a void construct that appears to have been made from the same mold used to create the King's molds.
Right.
But the Collector is unique because, well,
Good grief, he's naked!
The music
the
in here
Collector
is
stayed
so
in the Tower of Love
cool.
with a noble bug who likely owned the establishment. In the tower, a number of bugs can be found captured in jars, implying that these two were tasked with collecting these creatures. However, the Collector somehow became obsessed with grubs, creating a map to keep track of grubs it captured in jars, as well as keeping a strange shrine displaying a grub in the style of the Vitruvian Man. Eventually, the bug staying with the Collector decided to lock it inside the Tower of Love, and fled to the Queen's Gardens, where it died, likely due to overexposure to the void. Despite being locked up in the tower, the Collector is still spotted by the Hunter at some point, which either means this only happened recently, or the Hunter has been farting around in Hallownest for a long-ass time. We have no idea what these creatures were trying to do. It's implied that the Collector was trying to preserve the creatures of Hallownest, perhaps trying to protect them from the spread of the infection, but we don't know where the Collector's obsession with grubs originated, and while Lurien does seem connected to all of this, we don't know how involved he was with this operation, or what its end goal exactly was.
The
Multiple
twistiness of that
teacher
music
lived
is really
in the teacher's
interesting.
archives, a library built atop a lake of acid in the Fog Canyon. The lower half of her body consists of tentacles, making her a popular subject for the thriving Hollow Knight R34 community.
Oh my god.
The archives and the Fog Canyon as a whole are also filled with these strange Metroid knockoffs. These creatures are likely related to Monomon in some way.
Please.
They could be her live offspring,
Oh, God.
her test tube babies, or possibly even her shit. Motomon uses futuristic cathode ray tube things to store information about Hallownest. Several terminals in the teacher's archive go into detail about the Pale King's plan to defeat the Radiants, indicating that Motomon had intimate knowledge of what she was taking part in. Finally, the Pale King sought the help of Hera the Beast, the Queen of Deepnest. Now, as I mentioned earlier, relations between Hallownest and Deepnest were kinda not great. Unlike the other two dreamers, Hera needed to be convinced in order to help the Pale King. Hera would eventually agree to become a dreamer, in exchange for a child. The Pale King agreed, and the two engaged in a dalliance, which is a fancy way of saying they totally boned. The White Lady was okay with this arrangement. In fact, she might have been watching from the closet. The motive behind Hera's request is never elaborated on, but it appears as though the King of Deepnest was dead at this point. Hera was a common bug, so perhaps she desired the Pale King's pale seed so that her child could be of high birth. The bargain between Hera and the Pale King resulted in the birth of Hornet.
Oh!
She became known as the Gender Child because, unlike the Pale King's other children, Hornet was not hollowed out by the Abyss. Hera and Hornet spent little time together, as Hera had to make good on her end of the bargain. And so the three dreamers were put to rest. Through their
That's why she has the crown, kinda.
actions, a seal was placed over the black egg, prohibiting entrance into the chamber. These dreamers also had their own protection. At the base of Lurian's spire, the Watcher Knights guarded access to their master's body. Motomon's body was protected by a giant jellyfish named Umu. On top of this, Motomon entrusted her servant Quirrell with a mask which would be required to break an additional seal she had placed over herself.
Right.
So she basically is double wrapping herself. As for Hera, we're not really sure what protected her, since it is never actually seen in-game. We don't know where this creature is hiding, but whoever it is, they really suck at their job. Now there appears to be one more element to the Pale King's plan, involving the Weavers.
Yeah, the Weavers.
Hidden away in the Weaver's den is an incomplete seal of binding, woven from silk. This design prominently features the Hollow Knight's head, and can be found in the White Palace, as well as blocking the exit during the Hollow Knight fight. Silk spools created by the Weavers can be found in the Stag Station in Deepnest, as well as the Stag Station next to the White Palace. These spools can also be found in the Pale King's workshop.
Oh!
We know that the Weavers were closely tied to Hera and Hornet, so their actions might have been a part of the deal between the Pale King and Hera. Once the Hollow Knight was ready, the Radiance was somehow channeled into the vessel,
Damn.
which was then placed inside of a giant black egg located in the Forgotten Crossroads. This egg was built to sustain the Hollow Knight, and itself appears to be fashioned from void. The Hollow Knight was chained up, and the entrance to the black egg was locked behind a powerful seal created by the three dreamers. Initially, this convoluted plan actually worked, and the infection was successfully contained. Memorials to the Hollow Knight and the Dreamers were erected in the City of Tears
Heroes,
and
yeah.
the resting grounds.
They saved the
But
place.
this is the part of the story where things get a little bit hazy. By the time these statues were constructed, citizens had taken to writing on parchment woven from spider silk, which was all destroyed when water started pouring down onto the city. We don't know how long the Hollow Knight was able to completely contain the infection. Bugs from Dirtmouth used to go to the Temple of the Black Egg to pray, saying they felt at peace within the walls. But after a while, they stopped going, perhaps indicating that the infection was beginning to leak out again. The infectious air continued to seep through Hallownest for years, eventually even reaching the deepest parts of the kingdom. As it turns out, the Pale King's pure vessel wasn't quite so pure after all. The Hollow Knight had been tarnished by an idea instilled. While the game never explicitly tells us what that idea was, it does hint strongly at what it might be. Hidden away in the White Palace is a memory showing the Hollow Knight and the Pale King sharing a moment. The Hollow Knight might have developed a parental bond to the Pale King,
Right.
and who could blame it? The Pale King is a pretty great dad after all. You know, if you ignore the infanticide and everything. Remember those smug mushroom dickheads? Well, it turns out their trust in the Pale King was a complete mistake. That shared mind isn't looking too good now, is it? In the fungal core, the corpse of a giant mushroom lies dormant. Its final thoughts were, "Pale worm, what good to see a demise unavoidable?" This could imply that the Pale King always knew that his kingdom was doomed. All he could do was delay the inevitable. This is likely the moment when Hallownest, as it once was, entirely collapsed. The Hollow Knight had not completely stopped the infection, and while it may have taken a while, Hallownest was eventually brought low. It's at this point that characters and areas begin to resemble as we know them in-game. When it became clear that the Hollow Knight was not able to contain the Radiance, the Pale King resorted to his final plan. He fucked off, hiding himself, his White Palace, and his Pale Court in the Dream World. At this point, all of the furniture in the palace was covered under white sheets, similar to how people in the real world cover their furniture while away on long trips. The palace was also completely covered with thorns and buzzsaws, similar to how people in the real world cover their houses with thorns and buzzsaws.
Right, so you can never get in and
the
find
Pale
what you were
King would
looking
eventually
for.
pass away while sitting on his throne in the White Palace.
Alone, mind you.
There's no confirmation on what killed him, but there are a few things to consider. The throne room is incredibly dark compared to the rest of the palace, and the particle effects and ambient track in this room are identical to that of the Abyss. All of the king's molds surrounding the Pale King are dead. The ancient basin itself also has become stained with the presence of void,
And
as
the-
it can be seen as high as the rundown elevator
Right.
shaft leading back to the city.
So
Remember that bug that was sealed away in the Abyss to make sure the lighthouse wasn't turned off? Well, the lighthouse was turned off. I guess that whole living with
wasn't able to
purpose
keep the
thing
void
is a
at bay.
crock of shit after all. It seems as though the Sea of Void itself actually convinced this bug to betray his king and turn off the lighthouse. Now I know what you're thinking. Exactly how conscious is the Void? Is the Void able to think for itself? Can it form strategies? Does it host a podcast? Well, according to this Chozo statue ripoff, the Void is powerful, but not unified. So while it can thrash around at things that come near it, or call out in unison to turn off a light, it's not a single conscious being. Getting back to the Pale King, one could argue that the Void might have played a role in his ultimate demise, and I've argued that viewpoint in the past, but we have to remember that there isn't enough evidence to know for sure. As an expert lawyer and a good friend of mine, Johnny Cochran, once said, "Any evidence that the Void was involved in the Pale King's death is circumstantial. My name is Johnny Cochran." Just above the White Palace,
does definitely look
the bugs
like
in
it,
the City
though.
of Tears weren't faring much better. Even if we ignore the fact that the infection was still around, there were other issues that helped lead to the city's downfall. Due to the gates being sealed,
sorry, but even the way that the black sort of circles around it, to me it seems like it would be obvious that it was the Void that eventually just said, you know what, we're good with this. You know what I mean?
some bugs resorted to cannibalism in order to avoid starvation. And there's also that metric fuckton of corpses lining the walls of the Soul Sanctum. When all was said and done, the only citizen left standing is Eternal Emelita, who just laughs her ass off about it like she's a fucking Dark Souls character. The White Lady ends up in a cocoon deep within the Queen's gardens. She decided to place bindings on herself in order to keep her from spreading her seed. She claims that this is because of the shame she feels in helping the Pale King create the vessels, but honestly, it's probably just her kink. The White Lady also diminished her power, possibly as a way to keep herself hidden from unwanted visitors. Outside her cocoon, Drya stood guard, protecting her queen from the violent traitor mantises. Drya is
Oh
eventually
wow, I
killed
totally
off by
missed this. This is crazy. All these mantises here leading up to Drya.
these bugs.
Mind you, oh no, never mind. That was the other. Oh, sorry, that was the other person, the other guard that was in a relationship with the man. I got confused.
Which is actually pretty pathetic if you think about it. I mean, we're talking like the Netgear WPN824N N150 wireless router pathetic. Speaking of great knights dying pathetically, let's move on to Hagemul. Hagemul held the city crest, a key used to open one of the gates to the City of Tears. At some point, Hagemul's armor shell was stolen by a maggot. Now, maggots were generally looked down upon and forced to do menial labor. They were incredibly weak, and basically deserved all of the discrimination they got. But this one maggot decided to turn the tide, so he stole Hagemol's shell so that he could defend his downtrodden brothers. His actions weren't motivated by the infection, but instead was the result of how hierarchical caste systems will always lead to revolution from the working class, and that true freedom can only be achieved blah blah blah, capitalism is bad, subscribe to my Patreon. Ogre moved to the Royal Waterways and started living in shit, changing his name to Dung Defender. Now I love wallowing in shit as much as the next guy, but you'd have to really love shit to put up with living with the flukes. The Dung Defender kept an unwavering sense of duty and loyalty to the king, and love for his fellow knights, so much so that he made shit statues of them. How nice. Ogrim acted as the defender of the pipe.
I will say the knights have some of the most interesting story. I will say the humor there kind of loses me a little bit, because the stories of the knights are actually extremely sad. I would have liked it if he was a little bit less funny at that point, or trying to make jokes at that point, because I feel like, I don't know. It's the knights their histories are so like broken, and everything is sort of collapsing in and of itself. It's so interesting. It's fine. I don't mind it, but it's just like
ways, as well as Isma's Grove. A section of the Royal Waterways became filled with acid.
Like if you think about it, even the fact that then we end up fighting we fight the white knight, or the white defender, and even though Ulgrim, I guess his name is, has lost everything, lost his family, lost his friends, lost, essentially even the will to fight, because he's just living in a pile of shit. The fact that when we hit him with the dream nail and he becomes the white defender, his true form, we hear it also in the music. It's amazing. How within himself he still feels like there is a part of him, and I think that, again, that's like one of the things about Hollow Knight that is so, I think, very touching. When you hit the dream nail on the stag, and he talks about being the last of his people, or the fact that what it's like to be lonely, and the fact that you hit the dream nail and all these different people say these really thought-provoking things. I mean, that to me is the thing that makes it really deep and really interesting. I don't mean to minimize what Malspec has done. Obviously, this video is incredibly comprehensive and very interesting to watch. I'm enjoying it immensely. But I can't help but be like, come on, bro. Like, these guys, like, this story sucks. Like, we don't have to reduce it to, like, this is really like a heartbreaking thing if you really think about it. We all have dreams of who we once were. I mean, how many people have fallen from grace and now do, XYZ job, and they hate their lives, but they used to have this opportunity that was either taken away from them, or you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like real like sad nuance in it that's like heartbreaking to really think about. It's a really interesting, the dream fights are sort of interesting in that regard, Maybe I know that it's the maggot with the dream fight with the armor of the first guy, but like, imagine if that was like a glimpse of what that knight used to actually be like. Obviously it's not, because it's the maggot, but I don't know, it made my brain percolate a little bit.
Middle of it all rests Isma's corpse, which has been overcome by plant life. Isma is likely the one responsible for this acid blight, but we have no idea what happened to her. Hornet's whereabouts during this time are fairly mysterious. We know that she departed Deep Nest and didn't return until the events of the game. At some point, she took to guarding Halnest from intruding warriors, as well as the cast-off shell in the Kingdom's Edge. Despite the Kingdom's woes at large,
it's a great
fortunately
video,
this
by the
fate
way.
did not befall one of the fandom's favorite characters. The Menderbugs continued to fix the broken signs and wayposts of Halnest. From a diary entry, we can see that one Menderbug in particular had found himself on the precipice of a long and loving relationship.
Hello again, diary. Not long now until the next Minder
Do
bash.
we know the time frame for Silksong, by the way? Do we know if it's after the events of Hollow Knight, or if it's in between the events of Hollow
Stealthy
Knight?
types. We're a
Or
riotous bunch
before,
when
where
we
he
get
just
together.
said that?
And Minderberry kept flashing me that smile. It might be time to muster my courage and act on it. I love my home and my life, but sharing it with another? Why, that'd be the berry on top.
Greenpath also underwent some changes during this time. The Mosskin were waiting for Un's call, which would bring them back into the dream they were originally born from. But for some reason, Un's strength deteriorated. We don't know why this happened exactly. Was it due to the White Lady claiming part of her kingdom? Was it somehow due to the infection? Some Mothkin believe that Un went into hiding, but it appears as though Un is, in fact, calling to her children. But many of the Mothkin are unable to hear her call. Instead, many Mothkin seem to have taken the Radiance's infection into their leaves, which might explain why Greenpath became overgrown with vegetation despite Un's deteriorating powers. Mossy vagabonds even openly chose to forsake Un and worship the Radiance. Another tribe to be screwed over by the Radiance is the Hive, which fell to the infection after the death of their leader, Hive Queen Vespa. But it appears as though this had little effect on their civilization. The Radiance's hive mind was already familiar to the bees, since the hive probably operated under something similar already. So in other words, the hive probably made out the best in this whole situation.
They definitely made out the best.
Let's turn our attention back to the moths. After all, it's their god that keeps killing everybody. Well, the moth tribe didn't fare too well, actually, as pretty much the entire tribe died out.
Right.
The only known survivor is the seer.
Right.
Despite the loss of her tribe, the seer continued to tend to the graves in the resting grounds, while also waiting the arrival of the wielder, a mysterious being that her tribe has dreamt of for a while. In the Kingdom's Edge, the land became covered in ash molting off of the worm's decomposing corpse. The Colosseum of Fools continued to thrive. The Lord Fool passed away at some point, but nobody really seems to notice or even care. The fools inside the Colosseum were infected, but still seem to have maintained control over themselves. It seems possible that these bugs took in the infection willingly, similar to the Traitor Lord and his followers. This would have given them an edge in combat, similar to using steroids, but without the whole shrinking testicles thing. However, even the Traitor Lord and his followers went mad, so what makes these fools any more special?
I also think it's cool that the Traitor Lord is so difficult to fight because of some of the infection, possibly.
So the Pale King's champion, the Pale Lurker, well, she just went the normal kind of insane. There appears to have been another unforeseen event with the Pale King's plan. When the Hollow Knight was originally chosen, the door to the Abyss was sealed, trapping the discarded vessels within. But apparently, some vessels didn't get the memo. Vessel corpses can be found littered throughout the kingdom. There's one in the Ancient Basin, one in Greenpath, and several trapped in Nosk's lair in Deep Nest.
Oh, right.
Another vessel that escaped from the Abyss is the player character, the Knight. The exact details on how the vessels escaped the Abyss is unclear. There are indications that they might have slipped into Deep Nest through some old passageway, given void influences in part of the area, and all the corpses found in Nosk's lair. At some point, all entrances to Hollow Nest were closed off, with the old well and Earthmouth being the only way to sneak back in. Despite this, several people have wormed their way into the kingdom, with few ever returning. Characters like Relic Seeker Lem seemed content to just pillage artifacts from the ruined kingdom, but other bugs seemed interested in something greater. In the Howling Cliffs rests the corpse of a member of the Grim Troop. The task of this bug appears to have been to seek out Hollow Nest, so that the troop might be summoned to the kingdom in the future. The Grim Troop are basically a group of bugs that serve a higher being known as the Nightmare Heart. The troop keeps the heart alive by feeding on the nightmares of fallen kingdoms. This process also involves sacrificing the troop master to his own child because, hey, look at this cool ass boss battle. Another important group that traveled to Hollow Nest are the God Seekers. After being abandoned by their old gods, the gods of thunder and the gods of rain, these bugs left their home in the land of storms, seeking out a new god to worship. The God Seekers looked to gods to save them from their own silent mind. While traveling through the wastelands, the God Seekers constructed devices called God Tuners, which helped them seek out new gods. Through this device, they were able to detect the lingering power of the Pale King and find their way to Hollow Nest. When they arrived, however, the God Seeker was forced into hibernation. She was encased in a strange sarcophagus-like cocoon, which was itself chained up with a lock. It's not clear how this forced hibernation worked, seeing as the cocoon appears to have been made by the God Seeker herself. As for who put the cocoon in chains, I think the most likely candidate is the Dung Defender, considering how the God Seeker's cocoon is found in the junk pit in the waterways, an area the Dung Defender has tasked himself with protecting. This was the general picture of Hollow Nest after the Hollow Knight was sealed inside the Temple of the Black Egg. The kingdom was stuck in a kind of stasis, with the Pale King civilization destroyed and the Radiance unable to break free from her chains. The Pale King was rebelling against nature, trying to keep his work standing indefinitely. The stasis over Hollow Nest held for an age. How long is that exactly? Well, we have no idea. As I'm sure
Right.
you've noticed, there really isn't a timeline for anything that happens in this game. We also have no idea how long any of these bugs can actually live. Elderbug wasn't around to see the stagways open, but we know several other characters were, implying that Elderbug is probably one of the youngest characters in the whole game. But this stasis over Hallownest wasn't going to last forever. At some point, the Radiance erupted out of the Hollow Knight, cracking its shell and releasing a loud and powerful roar.
Oh, right.
The amount of infection leaking out of the Hollow Knight
right,
became
right,
even
right,
greater.
right,
The many corpses that lined the roads and cities of the kingdom sprang to life with the amplified power of the infection. This strengthened infection prompted the departure of the Weavers back to their old home. Now this old home might actually be Farloom, the kingdom in which Hollow Knight Silksong takes place.
Look how pretty that
But
is,
the
though.
amount of knowledge we have about Silksong right now is pathetic, so I'm not saying that's confirmed or anything. This is also around the time that Quirrell arrives back in Hallownest. His memory of Motomon appears to have been clouded due to his time outside of Hallownest. These events are depicted in the Quirrell prequel comic, which also shows an image of the Hollow Knight with a pre-cracked shell. This could mean that Quirrell's arrival happens roughly the same time the Hollow Knight's shell cracks. At around the same time Quirrell arrives in Hallownest, we also see the arrival of the player character, who is commonly referred to as the Knight. The Knight was one of the lucky vessels that was able to make its way out of the abyss. Somehow the Knight ended up venturing beyond Hallownest and into the wilds beyond. It's implied that the Knight was called to Hallownest by either the sealed Hollow Knight or the Radiance within. Regardless, once the Knight shows up and yeets itself off this cliff, the actual game of Hollow Knight finally begins.
I still wonder how we got out of there.
There's a lot of details we could get into. Hallownest is full of NPCs and bosses,
Fluke
each with their
Hermit?
own
I did not see
stories
that
to
guy.
tell. But to be honest, I don't think we need to go through all of them, since their stories are relatively straightforward. For example, let's look at the Brooding Moloch. So why is the Brooding Moloch brooding? Because all its friends are dead. And there you go.
Fair.
That's the lore for the Brooding Moloch.
Really
Also,
good
it's
point.
the only character in the game with a visible asshole.
Oh.
Now, did you really need me to explain that to you? Probably not. So instead, I'm just going to talk about the interactions relating to Hollow Knight's main story. The Knight is eventually noticed by Hornet, who lures it deep into Greenpath. There, Hornet attempts to kill the Knight, claiming that she knows what it would try to do. At this point, Hornet views the Knight as being too weak. After the fight, Hornet can be found in the City of Tears, next to the statue of the Hollow Knight. Hornet mentions that the Knight has gained a resilience, due to the time it spent in the void beyond Hallownest. This could be referring to the fact that some of those who leave Hallownest lose their memories, meaning the Knight would have no memories of its own tragic conception. Hornet tells the Knight that if it seeks to continue the stasis that keeps Hallownest standing, it must seek the Graven Ash, which is referring to the Kingdom's Edge. At this moment, Hornet sees the Knight as a possible replacement for the Hollow Knight. Basically, the Knight could break the seals that keep the Hollow Knight locked away, defeat the Hollow Knight, and contain the infection itself. It's at this point that I should mention that Hollow Knight actually has 5 different endings, because of course it would. I'm going to be explaining each of these endings in this video,
I only saw
as they each give us
2.
a different glimpse into the mechanics of Hollow Knight's world. Now, to get the easiest ending to Hollow Knight, Hornet's instructions to go to the Kingdom's Edge can be ignored completely. If the Knight stumbles upon the resting grounds, the 3 dreamers will appear and cast the Knight into the Dream Realm. There, Seer will come to the Knight's rescue and grant it the Dream Nail, a special blade that can tear the veil between
Oh,
the
that's
real
what I
world
did my
and the
first
dream
ending.
world.
I remember
With
that.
the Dream Nail, the Knight can venture to the resting places of the 3 dreamers.
So then we work for so then you end up working for the Radiance.
Inside the egg, the Knight finds the Hollow Knight chained up, silently watching over it. Once the chains are broken, the Hollow Knight screams with that familiar Radiance roar and pursues the Knight. As the fight progresses, the Hollow Knight starts trying to kill itself, Quirrell style. But then the Radiance starts using the Hollow Knight's body to perform her own attacks. Once defeated, the Hollow Knight begins to spew infection all over the place. The Knight can then focus the infection into itself. This results in the first ending of the game, called Hollow Knight. In this ending, the Knight usurps the Hollow Knight, prolonging the stasis over Hallownest. New chains and bindings appear out of fuck if I know, and contain the Knight, and a new seal is placed over the entrance to the Black Egg.
Okay.
Now there is one giant question looming over this ending. Can the Knight actually contain the infection indefinitely, or
Seems
will
like
the Radiance
no.
still manage to break free one day? Before we answer this question, let's look at some of the other events that can transpire while playing the game. If the player chooses to go to Kingdom's Edge, Hornet will challenge the knight one last time as a final test of strength. After her defeat, Hornet allows the knight to access the cast-off shell, where the Pale King was originally hatched.
I just realized
By
that
interacting with his egg,
Yeah.
the knight's shell is marked with the king's brand, technically making the knight the new ruler of Hallownest. With the king's brand, the knight can now open the entrance to the abyss
That's right.
and discover the place of its birth.
That's right.
When leaving the abyss, the knight can encounter Hornet again, where for the first time, Hornet suggests that there are actually two outcomes the knight can enact. She tells the knight that it can either prolong Hallownest stasis or face the heart of the kingdom's infection. Within the knight, Hornet sees a chance for change. Instead of just replacing the Hollow Knight, Hornet believes that it may be possible to get rid of the infection completely by using the void inside of the knight. After visiting the abyss and obtaining the Shade Cloak, the knight is capable of reaching the White Lady, hidden away in the Queen's Gardens.
Yeah, the first one definitely
The
has
White
the
Lady
cycle
tells the knight that
continues
she has been
vibes.
awaiting a vessel to accept a gift. That gift being one half of a charm called the King's Soul, which she claims will give the knight more power.
Maybe it's out
The
of
White
guilt.
Lady goes on to explain that she can feel the weakening of the Hollow Knight within her roots. She tells the knight that it is free of the blemishes that made the Hollow Knight a flawed vessel. From this dialogue, it is implied that the knight truly is a pure vessel, capable of containing the radiance successfully. But it's not quite that simple, so we're gonna have to dig a bit deeper into this. Basically, we're gonna need to answer a simple question. What exactly does it mean to be a Hollow Knight? Despite the White Lady's words, we have a number of instances where the characters and item descriptions mention that the knight has a will, and maybe even a mind. But from the Pale King's dialogue when describing the Hollow Knight, it is stated that a pure vessel has no mind or will. So is the White Lady wrong? Or maybe even lying? Her eyes have been clouded by time, and she can be tricked into thinking that Ogrim is in the room when the knight is wearing the Defender's Crest charm.
Oh, wow, what?
She also thinks that Dryia is still alive, which, So maybe the White Lady is just senile. My problem with that theory is that the White Lady states that the vessels stand out to her clearly in a misted world, due to them being her spawn.
Right.
She also questions whether or not the knight sought her aid, which would imply that the knight must have some kind of will. So for whatever reason, the White Lady thinks the knight is still capable of
Wait, can I just say
containing
one thing?
radiance.
This music that's playing underneath too, one of the really interesting things about the music underneath is that I think that this night actually is a beacon of hope, and musically it correlates the idea of the night being that pure vessel, which I think is really, really fascinating, because if you listen to the way the music plays, now obviously that's the City of Tears music, but there is something in that sound where it's like, oh my God, it's you. I believe it could be you. You're here to set us free from this. You know what I mean? There's this essence in the music, even though it's somber, which I think reflects like the world as it is now. I think that music also lingers itself over the idea of a reincarnation or a reinvigoration of belief. Because if you listen to it,
Even if it's still able to make decisions. After all, the Hollow Knight was considered pure, but they still taught it how to wield a fucking sword. I mean, if the knight were truly and completely hollow in a literal sense, it probably shouldn't even be able to walk, or draw a map, or open a goddamn bank account. In short, this whole concept of being hollow is so abstract and hard to define, I don't really feel comfortable giving a solid answer on whether or not the knight is or isn't truly hollow, and I think the game leaves room open for other interpretations. Of course, the White Lady's gift is useless without the other half of the King's Soul. In order to reach it, however, the knight must travel to the White Palace, locked inside the body of a King's Mold. In order to bypass the seal, the knight must use a fully awakened Dream Nail. It can do this by bringing 1800 essence to the seer, allowing her to sharpen the weapon's blade. If the knight does this, the seer remarks that the knight truly is the wielder that her tribe has been dreaming of. There's no explicit reason why the Moth tribe was dreaming about this supposed wielder so much, but it seems like they believe the wielder would wash away the crimes the Moth tribe committed by turning their backs on the Radiants. The seer seems to know that the knight might kill the Radiants, and she seems accepting of it, ready for her and her tribe to disappear and be forgotten forever. With the awoken Dream Nail in hand, the knight can travel to the Pale King's refuge and locate the other half of the King's Soul charm. When equipped, the King's Soul provides a never-ending supply of soul. making it almost useful if it weren't for the insanely high cost of the charm, and the painfully slow rate at which it increases, and the fact that the charm will get replaced in about 5 minutes after you get it. The King Soul charm itself symbolizes the union between two higher beings. To me, this implies that the King Soul is a representation of a vessel, which also was created by the union of two higher beings.
But so the soul is an interesting concept, because if we look at, like, if we think about the soul is like the essence of what makes humanity, right? Like, we all have a soul, but we can't define what the soul is. Like, there's no real definition for what the soul is. The only thing we know is that when someone passes away, we sort of see them, that they no longer exist, and that their body was a vessel for the soul to be carried. Now, okay, that gets a little bit fruit complicated, but at the same time, like, I mean, I've been in a room with a person who was alive and then they were not, and there's a distinct moment when you see them, and you go to a funeral and you go to a wake and it's an open casket, and you look in, you're like, well, that is the person I knew, but that is not the person I knew. It's almost like their body, their soul, kind of a sense. And it's an interesting idea that unifying the soul, unifying those two pieces, gives way to this thing, to the night, to become, I guess, a purer or pure version of a vessel, because the souls unite, and it kind of almost like allows the soul to kind of exist. Now, obviously, it turns into the shade, but like the shade is also part of it, and the I don't know. I don't want to get too Jungian about it, but like I wonder if like the shade represents some sort of like shadow self, right? The shadow elements, the things buried inside, or maybe once we accept and give into the darkness that we all have, then that's when the light can take over and meld itself, and you're a balance of the yin and the yang. It's, you know what it is? It's like who cares if it's right? But like further, I find the concepts here so actually mature. And I love this video because it actually makes me like, I really liked Hollow Knight. But now I feel like I really, really care about Hollow Knight, because the story is so like full of like microcosmal nuance. It's really cool.
With the King Soul in their inventory, the knight now gains access to an area in the abyss called the Birthplace. In this massive pile of vessel shells, the knight can find a giant egg. Dream nailing the egg allows the knight to access its own memory when it was cast down into the abyss. From viewing that memory, the King Soul charm is replaced with the Void Heart charm.
Oh.
The recollection of this event allows the knight to come to terms with the void inside itself. Once the knight has the Void Heart, the shades in the abyss no longer attack it, and that strange creature that gives the knight the Shade Cloak calls it the Lord of Shades. In other words, the knight has now bound the once fragmented void under its own will, allowing it to control the void in a powerful new way. With the union of the void, the Pale King, and the White Lady, the knight has gained a strength before unseen. It is with this charm that 2 additional endings become unlocked. Hornet will now be standing outside of the Black Egg, offering to help the knight should the opportunity arrive. Midway through the fight with the Hollow Knight, Hornet rushes into battle, subduing the Hollow Knight and piercing its shell. It's at this point that the knight is given the perfect opportunity to enter into the mind of its sibling, fighting the source of the infection head on, and finally putting an end to the Radiance's tyranny. Or it can just stand there and let Hornet get knocked unconscious. If the knight finishes off the Hollow Knight as usual, the sealed sibling ending occurs. Basically, it's the same as the Hollow Knight ending, but now Hornet is in the room too, and her face appears on the door of the Black Egg. It's not clear what exactly this means for Hallownest. This might imply that Hornet is now a dreamer, but she's inside the temple, meaning that no one can actually get in there to kill her should the knight ever start leaking infection. At the same time, Hornet mentions that the bindings of the Black Egg would drain her, so she's probably just going to die anyway.
Oh, that's a
right?
terrible ending.
Generally, people consider this to be one of the worst endings.
That's definitely a bad ending.
But it's worth pointing out that Team Cherry doesn't support any one ending as being the true ending.
All endings are equally
Each ending is canonical in its own right. And honestly, this ending isn't the worst.
That's like a clear,
At least
obscure
the knight and Hornet
scenario.
will get to spend some quality time together. If the knight does dream nail the Hollow Knight, it will be taken to an arena where it can finally fight the Radiance head on. But the knight isn't alone, as the other shades from the Abyss will appear in order to help corner the Radiance. Eventually the Radiance gets trapped in the tendrils of the Void. The knight bitch slaps her a couple times, and into the darkness. The Black Egg then appears to turn to shadows and
That's
the Void
funny.
seeps down into the ground. Hornet awakens to find the Knight's broken shell lying on the floor. We get one final shot of the Shades in the Abyss going to rest, and the game is over. This ending is called the Dream No More ending. The Radiance is gone, and Hallownest is finally free from her infection. Now I think it's fair to ask a few questions about how the Dream No More ending comes about. When the Hollow Knight was initially chosen to become the pure vessel, the Abyss was sealed up, and the rest of the vessels were left to rot away.
Right.
But somehow, vessels ended up outside of the Abyss, and then one of those vessels was used to replace the Hollow Knight. Exactly how much of this operation was planned, if at all? The White Lady was waiting for a vessel.
I love this theme. White Defender.
Did she have any communication with Hornet? Hornet was guarding the Kingsbrand, the only way for a vessel to enter the Abyss. How did she know it was necessary to guard the Kingsbrand from weaker vessels? Hell, if the vessels did escape the Abyss by themselves, wouldn't it be pointless to guard the Kingsbrand, since the vessels could just creep back into the Abyss the same way? I'm not going to provide any good answers to these questions, because God forbid I answer anything in this entire video. But I do want to point out that no plans to actually produce the Dream No More ending are explicitly stated in-game. So we can only speculate as to whether or not the White Lady or Hornet, or maybe even the Pale King, knew that they could defeat the Radiance by creating a Lord of Shades like the Knight. Regardless, the next two endings were definitely not planned. In fact, the last two endings that were added in the Godmaster update almost feel out of place.
Oh.
The Godseekers basically hijack everything to the point where you don't even have to enter the Temple of the Black Egg to beat the game. That's like beating Mario Bros without ever seeing
Mario,
Bowser.
bro.
But on the other
Mario.
hand, the Godmaster endings basically reinforce that Hallownest
Mirko.
does not exist in a vacuum, which can help the world of Hollow Knight feel more real. Because what else is reality but just a bunch of random chaotic stuff happening all the time?
That's true.
If the Knight finds the Godseeker in the Junk Pit, it will be able to enter her mind and refight all the bosses in the game. This is part of the Godseeker's ritual. They basically attune to the resonance of gods through ritual combat. This allows them to ascend their minds higher, and eventually, through the use of godly focus, achieve communication with the god sleeping in Hallownest's heart, the Radiance. Now I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty convoluted little religious practice they have going on here. What's next? Are they going to start measuring the Knight's Theon levels? It's pretty complicated, but the point is, these Godseekers have some serious capabilities to fuck things up in Hallownest, as we're about to see. As the Knight makes it further and further through the four Pantheons, the Godseekers get closer and closer to making contact with the Radiance, locked away inside the Hollow Knight. At the end of the fourth Pantheon, the Radiance makes herself aware in this strange reunion cutscene between the vessels. But she isn't the only one to make an appearance. The Void itself appears to go on the attack, rising up to meet the Radiance's call. It's at this point that the final challenge, the Pantheon of Hallownest, becomes available. The Godseeker finally acknowledges the Knight as being more than just a simple cringer, and they begin to watch the Knight more intently. After defeating like a bazillion bosses in the final Pantheon, the Knight finally comes face to face with the Absolute Radiance, a stronger, more enhanced version of the game's final boss.
What?
Finally, the stage is set. After roughly 40 minutes of intense agony and tedious boss battles, the Knight has finally reached the ultimate enemy, responsible for the destruction of Hallownest. Truly, this will be a battle for the ages. But first, let's check in on our old pal Menderbug. As it turns out, he's still alive when the Knight arrives in Hallownest, and he's still fulfilling his duty after all this time. Let's take one last look at his diary.
My lovely diary. Someone's gone and broke. My favorite sign. Right there.
I gotta say, this video is extremely engaging.
Keeps happening too.
I've been sitting here like
I just can't get mad about it.
Totally
I should
like
be thanking
sucked
them,
in.
Really.
It's
More
really well
chances
done.
to fix
Actually,
that
it's really well done.
beautiful, complex sign.
Mousebag really
And I've
crushed this
stocked up
ending.
on spare
Really
parts,
crushed this
so
like
I've no
whole
fear
thing.
it'll ever
It's
stay
fascinating
broken for
to
long.
watch. Great.
Unfortunately, the only way to ever read
B-roll.
the Menderbug's diary is to kill him in cold blood. I'm not sure why Team Cherry thought this was necessary, but the general consensus on Reddit is that they are bloodthirsty warmongers, so it
That's
checks out.
Vati.
But at least Menderbug's last moments will be spent fixing one of his favorite signs in the Forgotten Crossroads. It's comforting to think that his final seconds of consciousness were spent in total bliss, before we sent him hurtling into the infinite chasm that is Oblivion. Well, anyways, the alternate fight between the Knight and the Radiance plays out differently than in the vanilla ending. This time around, the knight is not accompanied by any shades. Instead, after defeating the Radiants, the knight seems to transform into this monstrosity. Now this creature goes by many names: the God of Gods, the Lord Shade, the Devourer, the Void Entity, but I don't really like any of those, so I will just call him Bill. Bill proceeds to completely annihilate the Radiants in spectacular fashion. We are then treated to the Embrace the Void ending. Bill comes back down from the sky, dropping into the rest of Godhome. The Godseeker starts to get pulled into Bill by Void tendrils. We then cut to the Godseeker in the junk pit. Void starts leaking out of her eyes, and it appears as though Bill is making an escape back into the real world, which is probably a bad thing? Finally, we see Hornet standing outside of the Black Egg as the infection begins to disappear from nearby vines. Hornet hears footsteps coming from inside the Black Egg as the Hollow Knight reveals itself to her and the two prepare for combat. So from this cutscene, we can see that the Radiance's death in Godhome actually did kill her for real, meaning that the infection over Hallownest is now gone. This means the seals inside of the Black Egg probably wore off, allowing the Hollow Knight to escape its prison.
Oh, and it would still be
In other words,
infected.
the Embrace the Void ending is a goddamn cliffhanger, and we have no idea how Team Cherry plans to follow this up. The Hollow Knight is running loose in Hallownest, and the Knight has transformed into a raging void monster that might try to destroy the entire
I wonder if the
kingdom,
knight will be
or at least
in
what's left of it.
Silksong.
What's even more strange about this ending is that the announced sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, doesn't seem to be related to this ending at all. But that's a whole different shit show. Obviously, the biggest mystery surrounding this ending is the
Yeah,
appearance
I'll
of
be
Bill.
curious to know what happens with
Did
this.
this creature exist in the void already? Or was it somehow willed into existence by the power of the Godseekers? Did the knight turn into this thing, or did it just become a part of it? Examining a statue of this creature and other forms of the knight grant the player a Hunter's Journal entry for an ancient artifact called the Void Idol, which might imply this creature might have been worshipped by the ancient civilization. But again, that's pure speculation.
No, I think
We
it's
don't know
paced
what
pretty-
this
it's
worship
paced
of
super
Void
well.
exactly looked like. Maybe the Void they worshipped took the form of something more sinister. There is one thing we know about this monster though. It's weak to flowers. Yes, these things. As it turns out, those delicate flowers that Zamir has stockpiled up her ass are actually useful for something. They contain a strange power that even deters the White Lady from touching one. The Godseeker, however, is dumb enough to accept a flower from the knight. If the player does this, instead of Void being released out into the world, this flower pulls a no you, and the Godseeker and Void disappear into thin air. The flower itself is described as giving off a pale light,
But
which appears to
this was
connect it to
DLC,
the pale
right?
beings. Like I said before, pale beings appear to be some form of top-tier gods. As of right now, we are only aware of two, the Pale King
They did say all
and the
4
White
endings are
Lady.
canon though, so.
But the fact that Zamir brought these pale flowers from a faraway land implies that there are definitely more of them out there. Another small hint of the existence of pale beings are the pale ore items that can be found all over Hallownest. Did these come from the Pale King, or possibly some other pale being? And what exactly are they? Are they poop? In general, the Godmaster endings appear to be doing a lot of setup for future Hollow Knight content. Like I said before, Hollow Knight Silksong doesn't seem to connect to these events on the surface, so we are in a bit of a bind when trying to discuss what these endings actually mean for the greater narrative Team Cherry is building. There's definitely a lot more to consider about what the Pale Beings are and what properties they possess. And we also have plenty of questions surrounding the Void and how bugs have interacted with it in the past.
Maybe they won't
It
interact
almost
at
feels
all.
like we're looking through a keyhole, trying to grasp onto the totality of Team Cherry's creation.
Right.
How powerful are creatures like Bill and the worms? Where did things like the Void even come from to begin with?
Imagine they just
How
leave
much
all of
bigger
it behind.
is the world beyond
All these questions
Hallownest?
won't make sense in like
Is
a week.
Bardoon into butt stuff? But of course, that's the appeal of a game like Hollow Knight. Having all of the answers to every question would just ruin the mystery of the world. Plus, if we didn't have questions like this to waste our time on, then what else would we be doing with our lives? Go outside? Ugh. And so this video comes to an end. Now I know the average attention span of a YouTube viewer is 9 minutes, so let me leave you with a few takeaways. 1. Hollow Knight is a game about bugs. I know this may come as a shock, but it's true. Watch the video again, and this time, pay attention. You'll notice right away, I promise. 2. murdering your own babies might not be such a good idea after all. I mean, this is obviously just my interpretation of the game's
The Abyss
lore.
really is crazy.
Other people
though.
might have
So,
different
like,
views
a
on the
broken,
subject of murdering
dilapidated
babies,
space,
and
yeah.
every opinion is valid, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything. 3. Menderbug is fucking dead. 4. Nothing is certain. This video probably has a few flaws in it. Trying to construct a cohesive narrative with the information found in Hollow Knight isn't exactly straightforward.
It's pretty incredible
I'm sure
how
my
much
views will change in the future,
how
and I
much
encourage you to explore
this
the lore
video
yourself.
was able to expand on
5.
everything that we got in the
And
game.
this last point is fairly obvious, but I should mention it anyway. Cory in the House is the best anime.
What a good video. Thank you so much. I mean, I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Mossbag, for making that. I mean, I felt like there was a lot in there that really, you connected the dots in such a beautiful way. If you happen to watch your watching of the reaction of this, but what an amazing look at how deep and how complex and how interesting video games can be, right? And I think that that's really where this, like, I think that this video is done so well and and is so interesting because I think to like an outsider looking in, this stuff can be so shallow, and yet, like, sitting here and thinking about, like, all the little details of something, I mean, it's hard to not enjoy video games when you know that a game has this much depth to it, right? And I feel like that's why people are drawn to Hollow Knight, not only because it's drawn beautifully, but also because there's a depth in the music and in the structure of the game and the characterization, the environmental storytelling, the combat. There's all this wonderful nuance that I think really carries it really well. So I was happy to watch that video. Hold on one sec. Okay. And with that, that'll be it for us too. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey of Hollow Knight. It was a delight and a treat. I think that I'm a convert. I really think that Hollow Knight is a great video game, a wonderful video game with terrific music, and those of us that are enjoying this are going to enjoy Silksong as much, if not more. It'll be an interesting time. I remember when Star Wars started coming out with the new trilogy. And there was a lovely article I saw that was like, from this moment on, nothing will ever be the same. And I think that goes for this moment too, for those of you and myself that are really excited for Silksong and have been waiting X amount of years for it. Nothing will be the same after Silksong, and I'm really looking forward to breaking down the music. I'm going to give you a week, and then after that, I will be starting to do my usual opera singer reacts to blah, 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 blah. Until I eventually play it. I would love for those of you that have joined me here to also join in Silksong if you're able to. I will start streaming that on September 22nd. I will play through it that entire week plus, and then I have to go get married. And Ghost of Yotei comes out, and Digimon Time Stranger comes out. So I will be no-lifing it kind of in the same way I did with this. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm also really looking forward to you sharing with me the songs that you are finding in the game that you'd like me to talk about. I'll definitely be doing those as individual videos, so please don't be shy about letting me know songs that you're hearing, songs that you think are you have a pulse on, that you think are going to sound really are good and whatever. Our next stream is going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be listening to Fuga Melodies of Steel, and then we will also
Marco, I just caught your Patreon video of the special and episode 5 of Violet Evergarden, and I loved how you locked in as soon as the opera started. I also wanted to say that I was extremely touched by your reactions at the end of both episode, so thanks for sharing.
Oh, thank you, Thans. Eat hands, excuse me. I'm so glad you liked the Violet Evergarden. Yeah, Violet Evergarden episode 5 was amazing. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. I appreciate that. And thank you for the 2 month streak. I don't know what our next stream game will be, but tomorrow we're going to be back into Music Land. I don't anticipate streaming a game. I may be touch and go on some stuff. But if you want to come hang out, the door's always open for those of you that want to come and hang out, whether it's Hollow Knight related or whatever else game related. You know, I stream every day, and I enjoy streaming every day. So thank you so much for everybody for coming to hang out. I will see you tomorrow if you'd like to join at I forget what time. I think I said 11 a.m. So I will also be playing some games here and there. I just don't know what. So, all right, guys. Oh, yeah, thank you. Congratulations. I appreciate that. Yep. October 3rd. So thank you, guys. Be super well. Friday is Patreon picks as always. Yeah. I will see you guys very, very, very soon. And you will certainly see me because I'm always online. Terminally. Okay, guys, I'll see you later.